Hi everyone and welcome to Almost Cancelled, a very special episode. We're going to review the entirety of Season 2 of Daredevil, episode by episode, full spoilers. I'm Peter Bradley, I'm joined with Mario Miranda.
What's up, guys?
Connor Ryan.
Hey everyone.
And Alan Malden.
What's up, MFers?
Now, if you're on YouTube, or even if you're not on YouTube, if you're listening to the audio version, we did do this for Season 1 of Daredevil. We did this for Season 1 of Jessica Jones. I will make sure there's links in the description of the YouTube to go to those videos if you want to check those out. And if you're on the audio version, you just have to cycle back through to those months and you can find the big lengthy reviews of those as well. So let's just before we get into it, I suppose it may be worth just spoiler free at the start before we get into episode by episode, just summing up your thoughts on the season as a whole without getting into any details. Just did you like it? Was it better than the first? Were you in any way disappointed? That kind of thing. Alan, you're eager to go.
Alan, you're a fan of Red Batman, right?
You could say that, yeah. For Yellow
I
Batman, yeah.
Red Batman. I can see some in the background.
Yeah, you might be able to, but I don't know if anyone...
No.
That's true. Never mind. Anyway, so I was a big Red Batman fan.
Yeah, this is Red Batman as opposed to Arrow, which is shit Batman.
Yes, exactly.
What'd you think, Alan?
So, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and we'll discuss them in the spoiler section.
I feel like
because,
our thoughts are going to be more nitpicky
yes,
versus Peter and Connor being more just thematic or character decisions and things like that. Ours is going to be like, yo, man, the hook in this fucking thing, Billy Club, wasn't quite the right angle in the comic books. It was supposed to be a 73-degree angle. That was more like a 76, so that's bullshit.
Yeah, check out the spoiler section for that.
Yeah.
But, okay, whereas with the first season, I was like, yes, this is fucking awesome. It's incredible. This is not as good, technically speaking, but I liked it a lot more. And the reason for that is that there are more characters in this one and more...
It's more comic booky.
Yeah, it's more comic booky than the first season was. It's just not as technically well crafted, well written than the first season. I'll put it that way.
Okay. We'll jump over to someone completely different. But not just because he's ginger. Connor.
Really? Segregation already?
Yeah.
So Connor's a DC fanboy POS, as someone else would say in the Malphus crew.
Yes. Although ironically, the person who came up with that phrasing was also a DC fanboy POS.
We're converting him. I think at this point he's more Marvel than man now.
I've read a bit of Daredevil. Not a lot, but I've read a bit.
Right, but how did you feel about the season?
Okay, just first to go on the point of how it was more comic booky, I agree, but I feel like that was stuff that didn't necessarily translate to the screen as well. So I would perhaps rather they didn't. I thought it was still very good and enjoyable, but it felt a little disjointed overall, and for that reason it just wasn't as good as the first season.
Alright, cool. Mario, to jump back over to the Marvel fanboy POS.
I'm just gonna fair warning. I feel like if anybody speaks ill of Elektra, Alan will stab you in the neck. Just FYI.
Yes. I'm sending out agents all across the world at the moment, so beware.
Yep. Just like the ninjas with the hand, Alan has the third leg. I feel mostly with Alan. I mean, I feel the same way as Alan does. I think the first one was better, especially since it felt similar. Basically, it was the comic book version of like The Wire or something like that. Like, felt more like a crime show. This one felt more like a comic book property, comic booky, as we were saying. But I still really enjoyed it. There was some stuff in here that I really, really enjoyed that the first season didn't do because it was just more limited in scope in terms of superhero-ness. Because he was just becoming Daredevil, and there were less people with powers or abilities or whatever involved. So I still kind of enjoyed this one more.
Okay. For me, I ultimately I'm kind of frustrated with the season because I think early on in the season it was hitting higher highs than season 1 ever had. But the second half did not live up to that for me, really, at all. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy anything in the second half. I did. There was good stuff still in there, but I found myself having a lot more problems as the season was going along. And obviously I'll get into what those were when we talk about it, but and I think it is some of those comic booky elements that you're referring to that some of it's just down to taste. I just didn't like some of them, and other ones I think it is just a case they didn't really fit in the style of the show for me. But we'll get into all this. So if you only wanted the spoiler-free version, it's a really short video. It's about 5 minutes, and
well, I mean, there's some other things we could mention too. Like
we could, but I mean,
I think all the actors did a really good job. I think that the acting is one of the stronger parts of the show.
Yeah.
Chemistry is really good too.
Yeah,
like the chemistry between Foggy, Karen, and Matt. It's really, and it was good last season, so it just continues more. But it's just like at the beginning, I was really happy. It's very good to just see them together interacting. They just seem like regular people hanging out in New York.
And Bernthal is very good as a Punisher. He's
yes,
yeah,
right.
He's really strong. So yeah, but I mean, the gist of it is that two of us sort of acknowledge that season 1's technically better, but they like this one more. Me and Connor had more problems with it. So now for the long version, set yourselves in, because it's probably going to be about 2 hours, possibly more. We're going to go episode by episode. The first episode is called Bang, and
Definitely ends with a bang.
yeah.
it does actually.
My last note of this episode just says, "Well, bang."
Yeah, not like a Tim bang. Worse than that.
not banging out.
I mean, they'll both leave you a little sore the next day, but
So just to really emphasise this from this point on, full spoilers. If you've not watched Daredevil season 2 yet and you don't want spoiled, this is the time to leave. So episode 1, Bang. My first thought on this one, I've actually got a complaint right off the bat, which I feel bad about. This is a minor thing. This is just see the opening of this first episode. They do the whole thing where there's these criminals running through the street. They've just robbed somewhere and they're running through the city, and Daredevil's kind of picking them off as he gets to them. I thought the editing here was a little bit clunky. There was a couple of moments, particularly there was one where the criminal's sort of on top of a car and he's telling the guy to get out of the car because he's trying to steal it basically, and Daredevil grabs the back of his head and smacks him into the windshield, and that's fine, right? But the way it's edited, it's sort of like, it's almost like they missed a couple of seconds of the start of the slam.
I think they were trying to hide the identity of who it was for a little bit, and that's why they were doing it that way. Because at first I was like, "Oh, it's Daredevil," but then the fact that you didn't really see him the first couple of moments of that happening, I thought, "Wait, yeah, they're trying to establish that this is the Punisher killing these guys," and then you see his gauntlet, like, "Oh no, it's Daredevil."
Yeah, I guess I feel like you could have done that and had the edit and not feel so clunky. Like, because you can do, I've seen this done before. This whole idea of like not showing the hero at first and showing the effects of what he's doing and all that. But
Well, I feel like there was 2 different things that they were going for. Have any of you guys seen the movie Falling Down?
yes,
Okay. Falling Down as it's Michael Douglas, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's Michael Douglas is it's basically about the Punisher. It's about a guy who just gets pissed off one day and he just goes on a fucking tyrant throughout LA.
The highlight for me is when he goes into McDonald's and threatens to shoot the people behind the counter because the burger doesn't look as nice as it does in the picture on the menu.
But basically the show starts out the same way that Falling Down does. It's really hot. There's a radio. There's just something coming over the radio, and it just kind of like goes into it. And it felt like they were trying to like establish that for the Punisher, but at the same time they were trying to do the superhero thing with Daredevil. And I feel like the editor might have been getting a bunch of different notes and was like, okay, I'm just going to do what I can, But I didn't really have that much of a problem with the editing. I guess I didn't really notice it.
I was too busy noticing the fucking guy's head skull cracked on a windshield.
I think at that point I was just too excited to be watching the show again to notice flaws that early.
Well, maybe I'm just a Grinch, but I didn't notice. It stuck out to me, but that's really the extent of my complaints of the first one, to be honest. I think episode 1 was a really strong opening, and I I thought the way they teased the Punisher into it by like, because they show you this Irish mob boss showing up at his like gang or whatever, and they have this meeting, and he's like talking about how they're going to take the city back and all the rest of it, and then all of them get mowed down, and it goes on just long enough that you start to think these might be characters that we're going to stick with, you know?
Yeah. I was surprised how violent it was. Like, I think I forgot, and then it just started like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we get that shot of the camera
Especially with the cop.
Yeah,
going through
it's like
the
on
guy's
one side of the
hole.
body and just pulls out through the body. It was
Surprising.
fucking crazy.
That was a good setup.
I think this was more violent than the first. I don't think it's just a case of you forgot how violent last season was. I think this was another step up.
I think one individual moment might have been just as violent. It's just there wasn't as many of them.
Yeah, like when the dude fucking killed himself by impaling his head on a spike.
Yeah,
that's true. That was pretty violent.
The guy with the bowling ball bit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I just thought they weren't as frequent.
Intense. Yeah.
Whereas this one had a lot more of them because Punisher was constantly taking out people and.
Yeah.
So
basically, it also really felt like a Bendis run because there's a lot of that stuff in there, especially when you start dealing with the guy that comes over. You know, the guy that's friends with Wilson Fisk, the nephew. I forget his name. Remember the beginning? The very beginning of Bendis' run starts that way. Just a bunch of guys, monsters talking.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
There's a bunch of scenes like that throughout that series, and it really felt like that. Like, for a second, I thought it was like, well, are they setting that up? Like, where are we going with the situation?
I kind of thought that too, actually, because it was reminded me of the start of that run. And then they all die, and I was like, okay, we're going in a different direction.
Yeah.
That's not what happened here. But, I mean, the gist of this first episode is mainly that there's this one guy who survives this massacre, and he goes to Nelson and Murdock for assistance because he wants to cut a deal to get into witness protection.
Good old Grotto.
Grotto, there you go. Thank you. So the sort of standout sort of scenes in this one where Grotto gets taken to the hospital because he's bleeding when he meets them, and Punisher shows up at the hospital, and it seems like he's being reckless. You kind of learn later on that he's not being. Like, he's being very intentful in where he's shooting his guns. Like, he knows where he's shooting, but he shows up to try and like kill Grotto.
Yeah, remember that scene in Blade when he comes back? That's where the doctor gets bitten.
Yeah. It reminded me of the Terminator scene or Terminator 2 whenever he's walking through the mall, and he like pulls the gun out of the roses and all that.
Okay, thing. Yeah.
It reminded me of that a lot.
Yeah, because there was that shot behind his sort of like hip where you used to see the gun like peeking out of his coat. Yeah, so it's a very good point. But yeah, the other big stuff we had in this one after that was Foggy goes to visit this biker gang. What was the name of the biker gang? The
Dogs of Hell.
Dogs of Hell.
Yeah, who did appear in season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is not the first
did
time
it?
they've appeared. Yeah, season 1, episode 15 of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You've looked that up.
Well, yeah, that's why I know the number of the episode.
But did you recognise them before that, or did you just stumble across
I recognised
that?
the logo.
Oh, okay.
And they have appeared before.
I
didn't know what they were from. I didn't know it was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I recognised that. And
Fair enough.
I looked it up. That's why I know the episode. I wouldn't have remembered the episode number had a.
No.
I don't know. There is a Whedon on that show. Whedon, but it is a Whedon.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of connective tissue if you were looking for it.
Interesting.
So what else did people think of this first episode then?
I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't like the fight with the Punisher too much because Daredevil clearly got him. You know, he wasn't paying attention because he was busy. We're focusing, and he lands like 6 straight punches and kicks, and then, but then he just hits Daredevil like 4 times, and then Daredevil just fucking passed out, and Punisher just walks away like, "All right, I'm out, peace." Like,
Well, the thing that I kind of gathered from actually from the first couple of episodes with the way that Daredevil fights, it almost felt like he wasn't used to fighting really anymore. Like, he's used to like taking out, a couple bad guys, like stopping a robbery or something like that, and maybe he's kind of like gotten a little soft over time. That's the way I felt about it. I was like, he's not really
I didn't really
fighting
feel
as
that way.
well.
I didn't
but
get
then
that at all.
Elektra establishes that he's been training.
Yeah.
She even says, like, good job
Yeah.
keeping up that training.
And I also didn't even feel like that much time had passed really since the end of last season.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe it's just me, but
They were-
I just like got
they
that
were-
sense.
They were clearly setting up Punisher to be a foe that was on his level, but it just felt really convenient that that Daredevil's already on the floor, like gasping for air after like 4 hits, when
Yeah.
Punisher just took like 6, and he's just walking away with no problem. Like that really just felt unbalanced, like just convenient for the plot.
Yeah.
It didn't flow like a natural fight that way it would have.
Yeah.
Like I can get the Punisher's tough, and if he stumbled a little bit and he just got himself up, picked it up, and kept going, but it just felt convenient to make him seem as strong as Daredevil.
Yeah.
But that's just a minor complaint. It's more nitpicky.
Yeah. I really liked the scene earlier when they were playing pool in the bar. I thought it was just
Yeah.
really fun, and it immediately re-established their dynamic. Because obviously it's been like a year since we've seen them, and obviously they were having problems throughout the second half of last season, like with their relationships, and they were all a bit fractured. So seeing them all together and just bonding and having fun was nice to see.
I really liked how when Kara went away to the toilet or whatever, like Matt just instantly was like, "Oh, I can play pool now properly," and he caught like 3 balls.
Yeah, it does like the trick shot and stuff.
Yeah.
Probably like show off.
I don't have much more to add about episode 1 actually, because I think a lot of it bleeds into episode 2, because it ends with the cliffhanger of Daredevil getting shot
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the face. Jesus.
in the
Bang.
face. Yeah.
That was good. I like that. Just looks at him. Bang. Shoots him in the
Yeah.
face.
yeah.
All right, that's bang. Episode 2 is called Dogs to a Gunfight, and this was the one where, and I want to praise this. I not insulted, but I criticised the start of the last episode. Right, I am going to do the opposite and praise the start of this one, because I thought the pre-credit sequence for episode 2 was fantastic, because it's Foggy realising that Matt might be in trouble and frantically try to get to the top of all the roofs
Yeah.
in the city, well, not the whole city, but in the area that he expects to find him, and trying to find him and see if he's okay. And he finds his body passed out and deeply injured.
It's also reminiscent of the first season too, because the second episode of the first season starts out with
When Claire-
Claire
Claire and the other kid finding him.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting, kind of like a interesting parallel for them to make. But yeah, it shows. It was kind of hitting me weird because like it's kind of hard for me to get used to Foggy seeing Daredevil in a suit or Matt in a suit, because it's like here's a regular civilian helping a superhero in a way, and I was like, okay, I understand it was his friend, but it's visually jarring, I guess.
Cause
I mean-
I think because it's daytime. See, if it was nighttime, you probably wouldn't think that as much. But because
That might
it's
be
got-
true.
Yeah.
That might be true.
Yeah, the suit looks a lot weirder when it's in the day.
Yeah.
So it's broad daylight. And I like that they actually put in a line. He's like, it was hard enough getting home without being seen. And I was like, maybe you shouldn't have said that, because now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, how
How
did you?
did you make it? Yeah.
I mean, this is New York, daytime.
Yeah, there's tons of people everywhere. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like that. And so just to sort of remind everyone what this episode was, this is where we first meet the DA's assistant, or the assistant DA, Reyes, and we find out from them that they actually have the code name for him. They refer to him as the Punisher, so that's where we get the name. And I was actually, because I wasn't sure before the season started, if they were going to, how much they were going to use the name Punisher. I thought it could get like a one-off reference where someone calls him that, and that could be all it is. But they actually properly named him that, and he actually kind of adopted it. But then
or it could have been a scene with the main characters, and somebody could have gone, check out Dr. Doom over here.
yeah, it could have been like that.
I think the reason that you thought that, because I did as well, was how they treated Fisk last season, where they never called him Kingpin.
Yeah. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if anything, they actually go further to use that this season than they did last season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we get that. They also come up with this plan to use Grotto to try and, well, they're presented with a plan to have him wear a wire to talk to this other mob boss, but the real plan's to lure Punisher out so they can take him down. So that's the sort of main plan of the episode. And so we'll get to that. 'Cause that's more the ending more than anything else. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Well, I want to talk about.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I want to talk about Matt losing his hearing in the apartment because it as an effect from getting shot in the head, no less. I really liked the scenes of him losing his hearing because it was kind of like, oh shit, he's vulnerable. Like,
He's actually blind now.
yeah, well, he's blind and deaf. He's like,
Yeah, but I
That's
mean,
how we
it's,
tell her.
before he would use his hearing to like know where he was going
It's
around.
not the comedy button, Alan.
Sorry.
no, but it's even worse because it's like not only can he not see, it's not like his crutches just been taken because his incredible hearing covers for the fact that he can't see, but it's not even like he just went to normal hearing. It completely goes and he can't hear. He's completely in the dark and quiet. You know.
Well, you could also argue that he's probably really bad at being blind because he's not actually blind.
Oh,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So I really liked how those scenes were shot and him like sitting down and just sort of like huddled against the wall, like not knowing what to do. I really like that. Also worth mentioning, Karen actually starts to sort of notice that Matt's got something going on. She's noticing injuries and so on, and she sort of confronts him about it. And she basically says, "Don't bullshit me, but just you can tell me at some point."
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So
There's also we start getting the splintering between Foggy and Matt here. Because he gets into another argument about him constantly almost dying.
Yeah, it's almost instant, really. I mean, it was maybe not in the first episode, but I felt like right at the start of this season onwards, that splinter starts to.
And I had a bit of a problem with that in general, actually. I
go
feel
on.
like last season they had that big split as well. Like after when he didn't tell him that he was Daredevil, and they found out, and he was really pissed, and they had this massive argument. And it wasn't really till the end that they kind of came together again. And it felt like they'd come together, and now they'd been working together. Like we'd seen at the start of this episode with him helping him out at the start, and it felt like he was okay with it all.
Yeah, because they had like a bunch of small clients, so they've been working for at least a few months, building up some. Yeah.
And now this just felt like a bit of a rehash of what we got last season with that stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a general problem with their relationship as the season continues because it eventually gets to, and this is jumping ahead, of course, but it eventually gets to the point where they're just basically in two different worlds the entire season.
Yeah.
And they don't cross over very much. And so it's almost kind of hard for me to see them breaking apart whenever they're not actually together to break apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would almost go one step further and say it's not so much that they're in two different worlds. Well, they are, but I would name those worlds as one's on the show and the other one isn't.
Yeah.
Because Foggy I feel like Foggy disappears for most of the last half of this season.
He really does.
After I think 6 and 7 maybe.
Yeah, it's after the trial stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, you hardly see him for the last.
But even
four
like
episodes.
Alan was saying during the trial, he's barely with Matt. It's just to have a quick little fight and then they go back to their own separate sections of things.
Right.
Yeah. I actually kind of had a problem with that almost from the other side of Matt's side, where I know it's part of a plot point that Matt kind of like distances himself from everyone, like from Karen, from Foggy, and all that. But I kind of had a problem as it was going on, where I really felt like he was separating himself from the rest of the cast, and like you say, it felt like we have one plot, but he's barely even involved in it now because he's just ignoring it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of speak more of a general sense, I think the biggest thing, and then also things I was missing from Jessica Jones that had really detracted from it, was something like Ben Urich. I think Ben Urich was one of the best things about season 1 because it was a completely human story. It really makes it feel like it really is in New York with regular people. And in this season, like, technically Punisher, Frank Castle, is just a human being, but he's not. He's a hero, and he's an anti-villain hero.
He's a fucking Terminator at times. The way
but he doesn't count. And Karen's stuff also kind of doesn't count because it's obviously involved with stuff that's going on with Daredevil. Ben Urich really helped. He kind of classed it up, and 2, he really helped. I felt to me really grounded, and why it felt like something like The Wire.
I miss Ben as well. Now you bring up, I miss Ben.
His story really felt like something out of something like from The Wire.
Well, even beyond that, you had characters like Mrs. Cardenas, who was just a regular person.
Yeah.
In the first season, you didn't have her equivalent here.
And then when it splintered off, I like the fact that in the first season, it splintered off into real human stories. And that's what something we missed from Jessica Jones was, I would have liked to see more of Jessica Jones taking on regular cases and just being a person in New York. And similar to that, I felt like they were missing that portion here.
Yeah, I think I remember reading that back when they made the first season, the original plan was they were all the shows were going to do one season, then go into Defenders. So they weren't expecting a season 2, which is why they killed Ben. And they said if they'd known they were going to get another season, they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I think that shows.
Sort of, because it did help to really drive the point forward that would be a driving force for Matt and them. It was really effective, and it really did hurt, and it was good when that scene in the funeral, and it did help drive him. So it did at least serve a good purpose for season 1.
I think it did, but now that we've had season 2, I would have much rather they didn't, because I feel like season 2 suffered for not having him.
Yeah, I felt they tried to replace him with the newspaper editor.
I was
So,
gonna
like
say
mentoring
that,
Karen.
And I liked him. Like I think his stuff's fine. But it doesn't come in until fairly late on in the season.
Yeah, and it's very limited.
I feel like he just doesn't have the same presence as Ben did.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, where were we? Yeah. So also Matt goes to get a replacement kill. Do we still call it a kill?
Yeah, it's Cal.
Yeah, I'm so used to Batman. I'm like my Batman.
It's basically Marvel's Batman. So
He
it's
is,
Cal.
but I mean,
Batman.
Batman. Yeah. So he goes to get his kill, and I actually quite like the banter between him and is it Melville?
Melvin Potter.
Melvin, there you go. I really like their sort of. Like, I like how kind of friendly he is with him now.
Yeah.
I like that relationship.
And something out of the book too. I mean, the Bendis stuff. He has the same kind of relationship with him.
Yeah.
He's even his bodyguard for a while. I like those scenes.
But yeah, so basically, when it gets to the end, you've got the DA and Foggy and Karen setting up Grotto for this sort of sting, if you will, which is actually a trap to lure in Punisher. But at the same time, Matt is tracking Punisher, so they all end up in the same place essentially at the end.
I thought that ending fight was pretty good between him and the Punisher because it's them hand to hand,
and
fighting
getting shot at
while bullets are flying across them.
I think the getting shot at while it was happening made it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
I felt it looked beautiful as well, just the way it was lit and stuff.
Yeah. I think episode 2 was another strong one. I think episode 2 and 1 are both sort of solid. I'm not going to rate all the episodes, but they're both solid like 8s, if you will.
Yeah. I think there was another big moment in 2 as well, which kind of sells the audience on Frank as a moral person, where when he goes into the shop.
Yeah. That scene. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So obviously he goes in, he's buying all the stuff, and you're like, he's whatever, and he goes to go out, and the guy offers him like the underage porn, and he just turns back around and picks up the bat, and it's just that's the moment that sells you that he is a moral person.
Yeah, I think that because obviously we all know who the Punisher is to varying degrees. I mean, I've never read much Punisher, but I know who the Punisher is. I know his character. Yeah. I think for someone who has no idea who he is and they're just watching Daredevil and taking all this in as new information, I think that is the scene where you go, wait a minute, this guy isn't just a psychopath villain.
Yeah.
There's a code there. So no, I did like that scene. I actually kind of, even before that, I liked how obviously to get this police scanner he had to be doing something illegal, so he's went to this shady, what do you call
it's like a pawn shop.
Pawn shop. I was going to say trade-in shop, but I knew there was a word for it. Yeah, pawn shop. And you can sort of tell the entire scene he's really uncomfortable with being there.
Yeah, but he's like, you're grey enough to let you live.
Yeah.
You're not dark.
Yeah.
You're in the middle, and I'll let you live.
Yeah. So yeah. Also, I want to put out, when he was offering the porn, I think that one of the first ones he said was granny porn.
Yeah, it was.
And I thought, wait a minute, if someone offered me that first, I'd be like, what? Why do you think I want that? Why is that the first thing you're going to
I love how this pawn shop owner assumes that all his customers want underage porn.
Yeah, or granny. Like, not just regular, just, big bums, or whatever the normal to recommend someone is. No, it's granny or underage.
There was something else as well. I can't remember what. I'm sure there was 3 things that he said.
Yeah, it was I can't remember, but yeah, it was funny. Like, it was all funny until he said underage, and then it was like, oh shit, that's not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a good scene. I agree with that. And it ends. Daredevil gets. I can't remember how exactly he gets knocked out.
It's because of his hearing.
Oh, yes, right. Yeah, he loses his hearing again. Like
it goes out again.
And it ends when you sort of get the sense that Punisher's taking him away. And that's when you immediately go, oh, so those screenshots where he was in the change, right? That's the next one.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Also, what's interesting is whenever it happens and like they fall through the roof or whatever.
Skyline
Yeah, Foggy, he immediately gets worried
rushes out.
and rushes out, and it makes Karen wonder why, because like
Yeah.
he had just told her not to go out there, and then he does it
And then he
himself.
just flips out and runs out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which this is a plot point that should have continued throughout the series, the
And
season.
it's the
Well,
first
that's how
step
he's-
towards a problem I have with something way.
Yeah.
Well, that's how
Oh.
he's supposed to be. Like, he's always got his back.
Right.
Yeah.
His best friend.
Yeah, I like that side of it, but yeah, from Karen's like sort of aspect of it, there's an issue because that doesn't really get brought up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
There,
not-
there's even stuff from the season before, like the first season, that I felt really should have been brought up in this season, especially with the Punisher. But we'll
Yeah.
continue.
All right, so that's episode 2. Episode 3 is called New York's Finest, and this episode is, I mean, for Daredevil's point of view, until the ending when shit goes down, it's Matt and Frank on a roof having a chat.
Yeah, but the interaction is fucking great.
No, it is.
Yeah.
Like, see, like 10 minutes into this or whatever, I was sort of like, okay, this is the best episode yet, and I was only like 10 minutes
Yeah.
in. Because it just their moral sort of debating as they're on the roof, and like Daredevil trying to like dig deeper into like who Frank is and all that, and he calls him a shrink at one point, and he cracks a couple of jokes about paying him by the hour and all that.
Yeah.
Try to dig deeper, but their chemistry is really good. And I really
We start
liked it.
seeing also the groundwork for the eventual relationship of kind of an understanding and a mutual respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also obviously a scene you need to point out is the where the neighbour who lives in the building comes up because he hears a noise, and Frank says to Daredevil, "Don't you make a sound, or I'm going to kill him." And he actually confirms afterwards that it was just all a show, so he would shut up.
Yeah.
Like he would never have actually killed him. But you do have this sort of edgy moment when he's like got the gun up behind the door. Like, will he maybe do this? Like, is he?
It's while he's talking about bonding about being in the Marines and
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
he's there just with the gun on the other side, like pointed at his head. That's what makes it so effective, because they're just
It
having
was
friendly
it was enough
conversation.
for me to question whether or not the showrunners were going to change
Yeah,
the Punisher
make
as a
him-
character.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know. Yeah, but yeah, I thought that was great. How he's talking about, like Connor said, being a Marine and everything, and connecting while
Which-
holding a gun to him.
Oh, which oddly also made you kind of like the older guy. Like, it made him sympathetic,
Yeah.
which is important for later on in this episode and later on down the season.
I think it's also important just for that moment where it's,
Oh, yeah, true.
it's the idea of, if he killed him, this is someone we should respect. So that's why we really don't want him to kill this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that scene looked really well. The writing and the acting and all that rooftop stuff is great. But before we get to the end, and I want to jump over to what Foggy's doing this episode, because Foggy actually has a really great scene in this episode as well.
I think it's his best episode this season.
Yeah, for Foggy, yeah, I would agree. Because he's looking for Matt, he's looking at all the hospitals and shit, and he goes to see Claire.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was nice to have her back. She's back for a few episodes, spread out throughout the season. She's very much quickly becoming the Nick Fury of these Netflix shows. Kind of against her will, but she's doing it anyway. And the scene where the two thugs are about to like throw down in the hospital, and Foggy steps up and goes into lawyer mode,
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically talks him out of it, is
Yeah.
I actually think it's really quite good and powerful, and it shows you how good he is at what he does. Now there's more of that later on, but that was the first time, and it's kind of like how when it cuts to Claire, Rosario Dawson's just kind of like, damn. Like,
Yeah, I feel like there's at least
Yeah.
3 women in that room that were like, I mean, I can find a room real quick right now.
I think also it establishes one of the key differences between Matt and Foggy. Whereas outside of the courtroom, Matt resorts to being Daredevil, whereas Foggy still sticks with his lawyer skills to do what he does.
It's like Matt says later on, like, for Matt, Nelson Murdock was kind of like a job, but for Foggy, that's who he is.
Yeah.
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 But I thought that scene was really good. I thought the music was really good as well in that scene.
Definitely.
So no, I thought that was great stuff, and But going back over to Matt and Frank and what they're up to on the roof, and the dogs of hell across the street.
Can I just point out how cliche it is that the bikers are listening to Ace of Spades?
It is, I love that, yeah.
It's a great song, though.
It is a great song, just cliche as fuck.
So all the shit, Frank sets off some explosives or whatever. He shoots down an explosive down at the bikes and sets them all on fire. Which, typically, if you want to keep you alive, don't do that to a biker's bike. I'm just saying, it's not a good idea. Yeah. Typically, it won't end well.
He also does the one batch, two batch, penny and dime thing.
That's right.
Before he does it.
Right. Yeah. Which is going to come up next episode quite heavily.
Yep.
I was hoping he'd like play with that, or someone would, and be like one snitch, two snitch, red snitch, blue snitch, something like, you know what I mean, like playing around with it. I've seen that somewhere. I don't remember where it is, but that's from something, or somebody's playing with somebody they capture and they're gonna kill them. Because the idea is like it snitches, and then red snitch is like a bloody snitch.
That just
And
something.
the blue snitch is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also runs at Brian Altano.
Of course.
But all the dogs of hell start coming towards the building. They sort of see that he's up in the roof, and I think at this point Daredevil breaks out and starts fighting Frank, and Frank ends up.
Well, it's because he gets Grotto.
Yeah, he's got Grotto up there.
That's right. Yeah,
he tapes the gun
yeah.
to his hand.
Yeah.
Actually, because Matt gets knocked out and then he wakes up and he's got the gun taped to his hand. You're right.
Yeah. I still don't understand. This is nitpicky, but he's Daredevil. He could just shoot his hand. Like, he's like, I'm not going to shoot you, but like, he's got body parts. He's got a gun in one hand, just shoot his hand. And then he can't use his hand.
Well, he mentions, too, like, he's got plenty of time and he's got equipment up there where he can...
Well, but I mean, but by the time when he's holding him, when he's going to kill him, and he's like, if you don't say what you did, I'm going to shoot you. Like, he's pointing his gun like that, you could just shoot his hand.
Right.
Or shoot his finger off. Like, you can hurt the Punisher without killing him, which is something that he's supposed to be able to do.
Yeah, it's not that he has a thing against guns, it's against killing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
I just didn't understand that.
But that's all goes down, and Grotto gets killed. Yeah, because Punisher kills him.
Mm-hmm.
And Dogs of Hell all rush in the building. Matt gets free and he starts fighting Punisher, and Punisher ends up knocked out. Daredevil gets the better of him, and we're about to go into what I call the let's top the fight scene from season 1 moment. But I really want to talk about the start of it, because I actually really like how it starts, because they're in the elevator and Matt's got Punisher in knocked out and he's about to shut it, and he's shutting it as the Dogs of Hell are rushing the hallway.
And the man comes in.
And the guy who we seen earlier on, the neighbour, comes out to ask what's going on. And then without seeing it, Matt just comes up behind him and is like, get in. It's like, it's just like, probably for me the entire season, it's the most heroic moment from Matt.
Well, he also stops the elevator, like the door's closing. And before it closes, he realizes he just came out, so he puts his hand in there and stops it.
Yeah, because he's like,
oh, shit.
He's like, I gotta take care of this now. I'm not gonna let this guy die.
Yeah, I've got to go out and protect him. So I really like that start to it. And then we have a bit of a fight in the hall to start it off, and I was thinking, is there still a hallway fight? Because I know there's meant to be a scene, because I'd heard beforehand there's going to be a scene that tries to top that.
Yeah.
But then it goes into the stairwell, and it's a winner as he's going down the stairs.
Fuck?
I love the bit in the
like,
hallway where he's whipping out the lights to give himself the advantage. With
Yeah.
the chains. I
The
thought
way
that
he
was
uses
amazing.
that chain is fucking awesome.
Beating the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, because he's still got that chain like strapped to one hand,
Yeah.
So he's swinging that around and he's hitting people as he's going down. And
He's
technically,
flipping him. He's like grabbing him and flipping him over the rails. And I'm like, how did you know that wasn't gonna break his neck? The dude like fell off the stairs.
He can hear everything, Mario. Don't worry about it.
yeah, he can. Of course he can. Very, very impressive fight scene. Very technically sound. And it feels really cool because he's getting to the bottom, because that's where he needs to go, and he has to go through all these bikers that are all filtering in as he's going down. It's a really bad action scene. That said, and this technically this might be the better of the fights between this and the one at the end of episode 2 last season. I think I prefer last season's though.
I do
Because he
too.
was hurt.
And the simplicity of it.
A lot of it. I think one of the things that I missed from the first season, in the beginning of that, he has his hands wrapped, which is called back to the comic books. But 2, he slowly walks down, he tilts his head, and then he puts his hand on the door just to get the vibrations.
Mm.
And it's not like people necessarily would notice, but people, I guess, would notice that because he needs to. And one of the things that pisses me off when he starts getting messed up with his hearing is in the comic books, he makes a lot of vibrations. Like, he will make vibrations to get a reading on people.
Yeah.
Like, there's never anything like that, and I just don't understand why. And in the fight scene with that one, that's the first time you literally see him tilt his head to try to get a better angle and then put his hand on the door. And I really like that.
fair
Right
enough.
before, that was like the calm before in the storm, and then
Yeah.
split off.
I mean, I did like that, but that's not even why I prefer that first fight. For me, the reason why I prefer that first fight, and I don't want to be down on this because this is a fantastic episode. This one, episode 3, season 2, but I like the stakes in that fight last season because it's really simple. It's about saving one kid, and he has to do this to save this kid.
I think it's also because he's hurt. I think adds to it because you can see him really struggling. And
I
It's
I
not,
think
but it's also the ending because he goes in the door and grabs the kid, and he comes out limping, holding the kid, and it's still the same
I think
shot.
it's more simple than that. It's the fact that in season 1 for that fight, he's going in to save someone, whereas season 2 now he's going out to get himself and others, admittedly, but it's to get himself out.
Well, there's also in the first 2 episodes of the first season, there's the whole thing about his dad being a boxer and everything, and the way that hallway scene is shot is almost like a boxing match, and it's about him trying to save a kid, and you see all the stuff that his dad did in order to save him, and there's kind of like a parallel there, whereas here you don't really have that.
What's the lesson of him getting up? Like, he beat the shit. Claire barely saved him. He's bleeding out. And it's just the lesson of Murdock's just get up.
Yeah,
like,
thematic-
we'll lose.
exactly.
but we
Thematically,
keep getting
yeah,
up.
and like Connor said, it's because he's actively going to save someone, and that's the point I was getting at, is that he's there to save someone. If he doesn't do this, that boy dies. And not only is the fight shot fantastically, not only is it really well lit and shot and exciting as he's getting in and out the doorways and all that, but when it gets to the end and it's still the same shot, it's not cut. In the same shot, he picks up that kid and limps to the camera, and it goes to credits.
But
It's such a triumphant moment that I think
it's a relief. It's because you're really tense.
Yeah.
A, you're worried about him because you legitimately think maybe he can't win because he's really fucked up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dudes.
And they keep getting up as well. Like, they're not just going straight down.
Yeah. But on the counter side to this, I feel like this is also to show you what happens when he becomes a superhero. This one was a lot more superhero because now he's not just Matt Murdock, the amateur. He's Daredevil, the superhero.
Yeah.
That's the way it would play out.
I felt like it perhaps showed a bit much, though, because in that first one, it doesn't follow him into the side rooms, and there's the tension of just hearing it and not really seeing it all. Whereas in this, we saw everything.
Yeah.
So every single move, and it kind of just lessened the impact a little bit for me.
This one felt more like stunts, really.
Yeah.
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 You're right. This felt more like, look at what we can do, whereas the other one felt like a perfect culmination of what makes sense from a thematic writing and being an impressive shot. Whereas this was an impressive shot, but not much else.
That was cool as fuck.
Oh, yeah, it was cool.
It was still impressive.
It was.
still
It was
fucking
exciting.
awesome.
It was entertaining to watch.
So-
Don't get me wrong. I'm not. But when I compare it to why the first one last season, like, really sold me on the show.
Yeah, but I think this is the first of one of those things what Alan and I were talking about. Like, it might -2 for missing that, but there's a +1 of this is fucking awesome because this is fucking Daredevil, and for us, it gets a +1 for that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll agree.
Okay. All right. So it's weird that we're criticizing that, but it's, you know where we're coming from. It's kind of
Just a last thing on that, I really liked how at the end it looked like Frank was going to have to save him, because he kind of wakes up and then but then he kind of gets himself out of the mess and he deals with it anyway.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's episode 3. I don't have much more to add for that. Episode 4. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, one more thing. Frank says the word "fuck" in this episode.
He does. I said this and I wasn't sure, but he did.
What's the line? Do you remember?
It's barely audible, but I was watching this with subtitles on.
Yeah, it's been on the roof talking, right, and Daredevil's still chained up.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what Daredevil says, but Frank starts his next sentence with "well, fuck," and then says what
Yeah,
he's
he
going
like
to say.
turns his head
Yeah.
like this, and I think he's sitting on the cinder block at that point.
He's like, "Well, fuck," and he goes on like, but because he bleeds it into his next sentence. I wasn't sure. I was like, did he just drop an F-bomb?
He did.
Yeah, and everyone I asked wasn't sure. Like, because
I watched it with subtitles and I read it. So
other people who watched had already watched it in the Facebook group. I'd said, "Did you hear him drop an F-bomb?" Because I thought I heard it, and they were saying, "Oh, I wasn't sure, I didn't hear it," and they too didn't hear it. But I'm glad I'm not crazy.
When I watched episode 3, I'd had a few drinks, so I must have missed that quiet word.
Don't give me your excuses.
this is an Arrow, Connor. Come on.
This is not Arrow.
I'd been to the pub before, and then I went to the pub, and as soon as I got in, I literally sat down and put it on. I was like, all right, I've been waiting all day for this. It's going on.
All right. So episode 4 is called Penny and Dime, and episode 4 is interesting because for me, it felt like the end of the first arc. It's almost like a new arc starts in episode 5.
Yeah.
It does. It literally does.
It literally does. But you know what I mean? It felt like a comic book in that sense, where you had a 4-issue arc, and then next thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is very much the next, the conclusion to the introduction of the Punisher, where we've had him speaking to Matt, but we learn more about his past because Karen finds his house, and we see photos of him and his family. We see the his kids' rooms and all that, and apparently there's a Star Wars drawing that people have.
I didn't catch it.
You didn't catch it, but other people did. Yeah, apparently it was there. So that's very good. But this starts.
You know what? I want somebody to put in Assassin's Creed Black Flag art in one of the rooms.
Totally get it.
Well, this one starts with Connor's Irish uncle, who's played by a Scotsman, funnily enough, showing up because he's the dad of one of the people in the Irish mob who were killed in the first episode. And he's mad and he's swearing like an Irishman and he's ginger and he looks like Connor. And
He actually legitimately quite looks
He
like
does.
one of my uncles.
He really does.
I have an uncle that looks pretty similar to him. Like, oh, it's weird.
yeah, but he's in and he's like, find the fucking Daredevil and, all the rest of the things he says. He doesn't swear though. Well, he does, but he just doesn't say an F-bomb. That's reserved for Frank Castle, apparently. He's the only one who's allowed to swear with F-bombs on Netflix. But they're on the warpath. They're hunting people down and like demanding, did this guy come here, blah 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 blah, because they're trying to find him. Of course, they eventually do, and they eventually take him down. Not before Frank, like John Wick, takes out like 6 of their guys, like a badass, at the carousel. But so that's all. That's all very good. And that's really the main part of this episode. Is Frank getting captured? His scenes with the mob boss, the Irish guy, Connor's cousin or uncle, and then the eventual scenes after Matt helps him escape.
Yeah.
Because.
And the dog, that poor dog.
And the dog.
I was so worried that dog was gonna die.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, don't kill the dog.
And you know what?
Not the dog.
If you didn't feel sympathetic for Frank after that scene in the shop in episode 2. Then the scene where he refuses to let the dog die, that's where they get you.
Yeah, it's really reaffirming it.
Yeah, so we're on his side now.
Everyone knows that you can kill off humans and people will be like, whatever. But you kill a dog on a TV show or a movie, people are going to fucking cry.
Yeah, they're going to hate you.
But I had that feeling whenever they first broke into like his place. Finding all his equipment.
It wasn't until it was
like,
ours.
Yeah.
Up until one of us was like, oh, thank God, they're not going to kill the dog.
I thought they were just going to put it down there and then for a minute just to stop it alerting anyone else.
It could have been pretty funny if that dog liked pizza. Hidden pizza dog.
Pizza dog, yep.
Do you mind explaining for the viewers what Pizza Dog is?
From Hawkeye, the comic book, Matt Fraction. There's a dog who likes pizza. His name,
Pizza Dog.
No, but his real name.
Lucky,
right? All right.
There you go.
I forgot it had a real name.
So that's Pizza Dog. But no, before we get to the scene in the cemetery, actually, I really like some of the shots where Matt's getting into the place to get him, because he's tracked them down. It's like a sort of long tunnel, and there's the lights coming from the other end, and it's really beautiful, and he's like fighting them, sort of like, I think it's just 2 guys at the time, but it looks really, really good.
They do the Scooby-Doo run through the different doors and the hallway thing.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what it kind of was.
Upside down. One thing I like too is when Frank finally gets loose and he starts killing guys, and he kind of gets pinned down. There's gunshots pop, and then the guys are hiding behind him, and then Daredevil shows up, and it's really, really quiet. And you just hear a couple of clings, but it's like you kind of show the difference between the two of them.
Yeah.
Frank is really loud, and he just shows up as very quiet and just very subtle.
Yeah, I really like all that stuff when Frank gets free and starts like popping people off, and at one point he grabs the table or whatever it was for the cover.
It looked like
it's
a
kind of
coffin
lifts it up,
lid.
yeah.
A coffin lid, yeah. It was a bit of wood, whatever it was. And Daredevil coming in and like helping, and it just, I don't know, it was a really cool sort of team up moment where both of them were taking care of business.
I think my favorite bit of
was
that
cool.
fight. Are you
Oh,
free
sorry,
to
go
say the same thing? Go on.
Yeah. I was gonna say what was cool is that Frank was getting ready to kill someone, but Daredevil has to stop him from killing someone while punching the dude out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, to quote Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, no guns, no killing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing I was going to say. It's just really cool. He just throws the club at him to like knock the gun out of his hand and stuff.
There was more, even from the start. Obviously, he gets an improved thing later, but even from the start of this season, I feel like he was using his club a bit more.
Yeah, it's also bouncing off things more.
Yeah.
Every time
Yeah.
it does it, just like, yes.
That adds to that superhero element, that more
It does.
comic book thing.
I think because
It
it
like bounces
also
off of different stuff.
just from a Marvel Cinematic Universe perspective, it reminds you of Captain America as well.
With his
Yeah.
shield, yeah.
Yeah.
I get a bit of that. But when they get out and they go up to this cemetery, which is nearby, and Frank's, beat to shit because he's been tortured for the last, several hours.
Yeah, that scene with the
drill.
when he sticks something to his finger. No, that's stick. Am I confusing
That's
that?
the,
that's
No, the drill is with his foot.
the drill
right?
through
Yeah.
his foot, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty gnarly.
That was one of those moments in this where I was like, oh Christ, I forgot how gory this was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he drills him in the foot, but they get up to this cemetery, and Frank finally starts to open up, because Matt asks him about the little thing he says before he kills someone, and he explains it's from his daughter's book.
Mhm.
And the music goes, there's no music, and Frank basically kind of explains his backstory, for the lack of a better term.
I thought it was interesting that they I was figuring that they were going to update like which war he was in,
Yeah.
because originally he was in Vietnam War in the comics and all that stuff. But I thought like maybe they could have had him in like Desert Storm, in the '90s and all that stuff. But they updated it to modern day, which I thought was pretty cool.
It makes sense given the fact that he's starting this now.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really make any difference to who he is, like anything. It just shows it's more recent. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back from a war. What war it is doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Right.
He was there and he was shooting people, and getting shot at. But I mean, I just thought this scene was really well performed. It was really well written, and the moment that got me was when it cuts back to Daredevil and he's got a tear, like going, and it's like from under the suit,
Yeah.
under the mask, I should say, coming down his cheek, and I was like, I don't usually see superheroes cry like in costume, but that's quite hard hitting.
This whole monologue was award worthy.
It was.
Right? It was such range on the guy that I didn't know he had.
It was really fantastic. And this episode for me is the high point of the season.
I count this 3 and 4 kind of together for me.
Yeah,
But
I
easily
agree.
this bit is easily the highest.
3 and
one.
4 is basically a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 4, like this ending is just fantastic, and it gets to the next bit because we have to mention earlier on in the episode, the cop from season 1, whose name I can't remember for the life of me. Mahoney. Oh, from Police
Brett
Academy,
Mahoney.
sure. Mahoney.
Exactly.
But Mahoney, like, he has this thing where he's saying to Daredevil that the police aren't seen as justice anymore. You know, because like Daredevil's running around, Punisher's running around, like they have no one respects them anymore. They see them as just not doing anything, useful. And that leads to what Connor pointed out to me after he'd watched this as a very Dark Knight style moment, where Mahoney and his partner show up, and they're going to arrest Punisher, but he starts putting the cuffs on Matt as well, and Matt's like, no, you take credit for finding him, because to get the sort of reputation back,
Yeah.
and all that, which was good. I mean, I thought that was fine.
Yeah.
It's
It
interesting.
worked very well.
Because Matt's someone who still respects the law, certainly at this point in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he thinks both need to work. He doesn't want him to be the last, the only line of defense.
Daredevil is the hero that New York deserves, but not the one it needs right now.
There you go. So the only thing that happens.
So is there gonna be a line where he tells Stick that, or Stick tells him that he thinks blindness is your ally? Because it's true.
You think blindness is your
Oh my
eye?
god.
Because he wasn't born blind. He was
Yeah,
only
you
he
only
adopted
adopted
it.
the blindness. I was
can
born
still-
with
you can
it,
still use
molded by it.
Still
I guess
darkness.
it's true. You could still say darkness. It's just a different kind of darkness.
And then Matt and Karen are walking home and they kiss in the rain.
That was a pretty cheesy scene. I
It was
thought.
pretty cheesy. It was really. I felt like they were kind of forcing this relationship a little bit for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I
A
felt like
little bit.
I felt like she had way more chemistry with Foggy.
Really?
She
Yeah.
did,
I don't know,
but she showed in the first season that she was more interested in Matt.
Yeah, they definitely have been showing the crush since season 1, and then throughout this one, like when they're doing the pool game.
All right, it'll be a slight cut there because Skype's awful. But we're talking about the kiss and yeah, for me, it felt just a little bit forced, and not so much that, because you guys have given me examples of how it was seeded in season 1 and all that, and I agree with those that it was seeded to, like, at least from Karen's liking of him. But I think it's Matt's liking of her that I feel like until this season wasn't really overly brought up. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was just so long ago that I just.
I feel like this. You know how in the Scott Snyder Batman run, like the idea is with the Court of Owls in the beginning, he's really confident, like to the point where he's like, "Oh, you're gonna be late for this meeting. I'll be there, but sir, you're like 7 minutes away. Don't worry about it." And like he makes it anyway, and I kind of feel like that's where he's at right now. Like him and Foggy are good, him and Karen are good, the relationship is good, the practice is doing well, they're helping people out. He's kicking ass as Daredevil. He's just really confident and happy, so he's finally allowing himself to like her.
I guess for me it was the way that it came about, like the way it was shot. It reminded me too much of the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie.
I think just anytime you do like a
This is
kiss
the
in
rain?
the rain,
Yes.
it kind of inevitably feels a bit Hollywood, so to speak.
You felt like Evanescence
Yeah.
should kick in any time now.
Oh, I was waiting.
Colin Farrell should show up as Bullseye. Because we don't have a Bullseye yet. We're due a Bullseye. So, you
I'm
know.
gonna say something about that later on.
It's gonna be Tim. Tim's gonna be Bullseye.
Because he always hits it.
Yep.
I'm glad you like that, Alan. Do you know what my biggest problem is for me, though? Is that this is when we reveal Elektra, because he goes upstairs into his apartment and Elektra's sitting there, and it's that thing we saw in the trailers where she's just in and he's like, "Hey, Elektra," and then it's like, boom, cut to black, right?
Well, I like a couple of things. One, I like that he just stops, lays back on the kitchen, and he's
Cracks
just
open a
smiling.
beer.
Just smiles. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good day. Today was a good day. I didn't even have to use my AK. And then he catches something because he throws it at him, and then he realizes Elektra's in the room.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I thought he grabbed something.
Yeah, I thought he grabbed a knife.
No,
Oh, I
I was
thought-
like, he sensed that she was there.
I thought
He
he
wasn't
caught
there.
it.
I thought he caught it as well.
Huh.
Oh,
I think she threw it at him
back
as
to
like
that.
just a playful, for her, fucking playful
Oh, I could
thing.
totally believe that.
Yeah. In hindsight, you're probably right. At the time, I thought he grabbed it from behind him.
No,
or something.
I thought I was on my Mario. I thought she threw something at him and he caught it.
It was the way he flicked his wrist when he went to it. I thought it'd come
Yeah.
from behind.
Oh,
We'll have to go back in frame by frame later, obviously, to really get to the
bottom of this.
But
Commenters can tell us.
see, the problem I had though, because I realised, like, as soon as he's walking into the apartment, I'm like, okay, this is the scene from the trailer where she's going to show up, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
we
yeah.
just finished the Punisher. Well, not finished the Punisher arc, but that opening Punisher arc, like, that just finished, right? So we need her to show up. It's time for that to happen because we need to have something else for the next, episode and going forward. And for me, because they just kissed Karen, really all I could think in my head was love triangle. Like, and I just sort of sighed and went, "Oh, they've just done this. This was such a love triangle setup." Now, admittedly, they kind of danced around it for the most part later.
Yeah.
Other than her finding her later and a few moments, they kind of scouted around it. But for me, when he was going up and I realised that Elektra was about to show up, and I'm like, oh god, they just set up a love triangle.
I didn't have as much from like again, like I said, I've read limited Daredevil, but from what I have read, Matt's kind of a bit of a womanizer anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And it feels like he's probably had two girls on the go at once before. I don't know.
You mean Timonizer?
I do. You're right. I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just.
Well, it makes sense because it is a legitimate thing in the books. He's in love with Elektra and he's in love with Karen.
Yeah,
just different points in his life. Only problem with here is it's condensed. With the books, it's a longer history, so you get to expand on it more by itself. But it is
in the show, because obviously they referenced him having a girl in college in one of the flashbacks in season 1. But other than that, this is the first time we see of her and hear of her. So you have him just start this relationship, and then boom, this is an old girlfriend coming to visit. And obviously, we'll learn next episode who she is more so and what she's about. But so speaking of that, let's get to episode 5, which is called Kinbaku. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Kinbaku, yeah.
Kinbaku. So yeah, this was largely flashbacks to how Matt meets Elektra, how they sort of like grew close to each other in college, and then eventually what she does that kind of drives them apart. And I will say what I liked about those scenes was the scene in the boxing ring.
Yeah.
When they fight and she like kind of like she basically just tests to see if he can sense her by throwing a kick.
She kind of realizes. Well, she proves that she's not an idiot. She's like, I've seen moments here and there over the last few months. Just a few moments here, brief moments.
Unlike that cow Karen, who still can't figure it out, even though Foggy's running out after him.
Yep.
But what I liked about that scene though was just how it was shot. It was goddamn beautiful.
It reminded me of Mike Del Mundo art. Like all I could think of when that was happening, that fight scene, and then the scene where they're, I don't know if that's supposed to be the first time together, but they're hooking up on there. It just reminded me of the way the beginning of Mike Del Mundo's stuff, because you know how it goes backstory. The first few pages, it's all backstory, and it transitions from her being like doing like ballet
to being an
transitioning into being an assassin,
Yeah.
and that kind of was what it reminded me of.
I can see that. Yeah. I honestly, as a huge fan of Elektra, I was very, very happy with.
I love this episode.
Yeah, she was awesome.
This episode had my favorite Elektra moment. That's for sure.
Which was?
It's you know, at the end where he's beating on the guy, and she's just there like proper getting off on it, like really gleeful and laughing at it. I just thought that moment was perfect.
Yeah.
That summed her up for me. Like just that she just like gets off on this violence and encouraging it. And
do you know what I liked about that scene
it.
as well? Actually, this is just a really little thing, but when she's got a knife in her hand and she just kind of slaps him with the knife.
Yeah.
I don't know why I like that so much, but you never see that. It just slaps him with the side of the knife. Really sad.
Well, I think I think it's kind of dangerous because with this particular characterization of Elektra, because like you see her as very playful with violence, and it can make you almost think that she's kind of like Harley Quinn in a way.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, like with Harley Quinn, she more so gets off on it, like Connor put it. But with Elektra, it's like the only thing that really makes her feel anything.
Well, she actually has depth.
Yeah,
that's why she's a full character.
I'm not going to start a war here, but like that's the thing with Elektra is like she just relates to people through violence, and that's how she relates to Matt and everything.
Yeah.
But I think they really set up this. I mean, that episode really, really worked really well to set up this idea that they were like essentially meant for each other. I also got the feeling that they're basically yin and yang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they just fit perfectly together as both black and white.
Right.
Yeah. This episode was definitely slowed down from the previous episodes. And I didn't dislike the episode, but I certainly didn't love it. For me, it was very much okay. This is like the calm after the excellence that was the last two.
See, I didn't feel that. I thought it was just as not quite as great, but like it was still like a really one of the stronger episodes for me.
I feel like it was on par with the first two.
Yeah, well, I think it was better than those two. I feel like seeing Foggy and Matt as younger people in college was really cool just to see them younger. The way they meet in the first time, where he's trying to sneak in there, and I love that scene where he's just walking and he notices her, but he just can't. It's like everything just stops and he just can't stop but notice her, and like he's just drawn to her.
I like even before that as well, like when seeing them younger with Foggy, where he's there just having the food and they're like scamming their way into getting the food.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm off to find the alcohol.
Yeah,
It's good.
you get the idea that this is just a younger Matt that just doesn't have as much worries, and he's more regular dude than anything else. So I think the episode was just really, really effective in what it was trying to do, and that's why I think it was so good.
One thing too is going back to the flashback. Whenever he first sees Elektra, he leaves Foggy like for the rest of the night. Like he just takes off. He doesn't see him again after that.
But at the same, I do feel like Foggy would have been like, "Hey, where'd you go? Did you see that girl I was with? What?
Yeah,
were you left with her? Yeah.
I agree with I agree with that, but I think it kind of illustrates the whole thing of the season where they just separate, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's this whole other world to Matt, and he just kind of goes off into it, and that affects their friendship, but we don't really get to see how it affects their friendship.
Yeah, because there aren't any conversations about it, unfortunately.
Right.
They don't actually have at it. They don't talk about it. They don't discuss it. Like one of the things that really bothered me about that relationship is that, Foggy points out all the lying. I was really waiting for the episode where everything came out.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering how much did Foggy know about Elektra back then, and would he understand what he means if he told her she's back? To what extent would that mean to him? Would it be more understanding? Would it be immediately just hit like, oh shit, I know what that means. It's a big deal. I'm gonna back off now because I understand what she means to you. Like those kind of things. Like when is that gonna happen? And it never really did.
I don't get a sense of like, does he know what she's like? Does he actually know that she's like an assassin type person? Does he know any of this? Because really all that happens when he mentions that Elektra's back, is he knows who she is, but he's like, what, your old girlfriend from college? Like, you don't really get a sense that he knows exactly what she's like.
It doesn't really have much impact to him. And
they never, and I don't think they ever meet for the rest of the season, do they? Elektra and Foggy? Yeah.
No.
Not that I can think of.
So, yeah.
But then it's also really weird because they both mentioned that she almost destroyed him. One, when they broke up, and two, like, just from hanging out. Like, it seemed like he skipped a lot of classes and wasn't doing very well in school. But nothing from context really gave that besides the lines.
I mean, you could kind of get a sense from that with them, like, breaking into Roscoe Sweeney's house, which is important.
Yeah.
And just, like, breaking into all these different places, going on in the Ferrari and all that shit.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? Like, it didn't really to what extent.
The thing that bothered me as well was last season, didn't they say like how just hardworking Matt was, and he graduated like top of his class. It was just because he spent all of his time working and stuff.
Yeah,
it's like, can he really graduate top of his class when he flunked an entire semester of stuff?
If you want to get into contradicting, there's something that bothered me more than that.
Okay,
I'll probably get into that later.
All right. Okay. All right. So you guys seem to like this episode a lot. I didn't love it. I just thought it was fine. Like I thought it was a. Maybe I'm just not as instantly into the Electric character as you guys are. But this also had the first date with Karen Karen and Matt.
Yeah.
Well, they try going to a fancy restaurant and it doesn't really work out, so they go to the small, I think, Indian place or.
Yeah, it was Indian.
Yeah, they were having curry.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So if it wasn't Indian, it was something similar. And I think this is maybe why this episode wasn't as amazing to me, as I feel like it did focus a lot on their relationship, and I wasn't really feeling their relationship. And that's probably why I left this one kind of feeling not that. It was fine, but this was calm between, the excellence it was 3 and 4 and whatever was coming next. Any thoughts on their date and how that went?
I think it was interesting that they were kind of showing that they're both doing the same thing. Like, the date was awkward because they were both preoccupied with different things. We also set up Karen started talking to the newspaper.
Yeah, that was this episode. This is the first time that happened. Yeah.
And so she's really preoccupied with the fact that they're so cooperative in helping her out. And he's really preoccupied, obviously, because Elektra's around again. And so they're on this date, and you can just tell both of them are completely indifferent. Like, they're really disconnected because they both have hidden lives right now. Yeah. Obviously, Karen's is to a different extent, but I thought that was kind of cool to show that they are similar, just doing different things.
Yeah.
Also, I liked seeing how they just like were like, I don't want to deal with this fancy restaurant. Let's just go somewhere
Yeah.
where there's not a bunch of pressure. We already know each other. We're putting too much pressure on this by being in a fancy place, and we go to like just a regular Indian, restaurant and just chill
Just
out.
chill. Well, because that's the relationship. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the decisions they made really made sense given what we've seen of them. Like hanging out at Josie's, which is a terrible dive bar.
Right.
It's like grimy, and so why would you all of a sudden be like high class, try to like
Yeah.
go to this like, fancy place? It makes more sense to let's just go get tacos, or let's just go get hot dogs and just hang out and go for a walk, which is what they've been doing for the last 2 years.
And it makes them a lot more relatable, I think, by doing that too.
Yeah, but and so it's cool that they kind of brought it back to no, this is who we are together.
Right. Yeah.
All right, cool. Episode 6 is called Regrets Only. And so, again, we're kind of in two sort of sides of the plot here. Elektra and Matt go on this basically
Heist.
heist, yeah, sort of fancy party where they sort of go in as a couple and they need to pretend that they're doing this and that, and they're there because Elektra wants to find something, which we later find out is a lodger from who at this time we're still
Roxxon
calling
Corporation.
Yeah, from Roxxon Corporation. We still think it's the Yakuza that's involved right now.
So
Yeah.
that's been mentioned in most of the movie properties in some way.
Yeah.
It's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's been in Jessica Jones, Winter Soldier.
I mean,
most-
Roxxon?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, so it's a thing in the comics, isn't it? Because
yeah.
it's been in Thor
Yeah.
a lot recently in the comics.
Mhm.
So that's one side of the plot. The other side of the plot is, and we're starting to get Matt having to like duck out of things to go and help Elektra, which becomes a bit of a sort of running theme for the next couple. But in the meantime, we get more of Frank this episode because they go and see him in hospital and
Yeah.
convince him to let them become his lawyers, which he only really does because Karen whips out the photo that she took from his house of him and his kids.
I really liked Frank and Karen's bonding in this one, though.
Yeah.
Oh no, I did
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I think that's the best part. The next few episodes, all of the trial stuff to me was kind of weak. I just didn't care that much. I kind of want to just go away and focus more on the Elektra stuff. The only stuff that I did like that was when Karen and Frank got to interact because that felt really genuine, like them bonding and her being so kind and nice, bringing out that side of him, the
Right.
human part. That stuff was really cool. But the rest of the time, it was just mostly a plot device.
Yeah. I mean, I liked but they all go into his guilty plea, and he's just like, nah, I'm not guilty.
Yeah, I really love that.
Yeah. And that seemed to kind of like come almost out of nowhere because like nothing had really set that up yet. We didn't get to see anybody like come into his room or anything like that, talk to him, anything that way. All we hear is this bailiff or guard or whoever he is just
Yeah.
ask him what he wants, and then it happens. So there's really no setup for it. And I feel like after this point, well, a little bit farther, but a little bit farther after this is whenever the Punisher's story starts to kind of like take a dive a bit. And it just kind of like
I actually
fizzles.
think the Punisher's all right for a while, yeah. Till maybe episode 9, I think. After that.
It's by the time he gets out of prison.
Yeah.
It's when he gets out of prison. I think the prison stuff itself was actually quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that obviously. Scenes in this I liked. I think Matt and Elektra had good chemistry.
Yeah.
And I liked their scene having breakfast the night after. I think it's the night after they do the heist. Or is it the night after? No, it's like the start. It's after they fight the Yakuza at the start.
Yeah.
It's in the morning. They're having breakfast.
Yeah.
And they're dealing about what they're going to do and if he's going to help her. And there's one more thing that's unconditional. You need to give him a pie back because he stole the pie and put it over there.
Yeah, that conversation was great.
Yeah.
I like that stuff. This is my frustrating part with the Elektra stuff for me is I like her and I like their chemistry, but almost everything they were doing I wasn't that interested in.
I thought it was fun to watch, like the heist. It was fun to watch, but I didn't care about it either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think that comes because of there being no setup in the first 4 episodes
So
with
this
her.
portion of it, yeah.
I feel
Well,
like
I honestly don't think it matters. I think the point was, who cares? The entire point of this is A, to show their relationship, and B, to show them physically in their relationship how well they get along, like be able to fight and do things,
Yeah.
and it moves the plot forward by her getting more information on what's going on,
Well,
which they kind of can. It kind of just seems to be just go
that's
with it.
fine maybe in this one example, but I kind of had that feeling for like several episodes. This is just kind of the first part of that. I really just didn't care about, oh, you're stealing this thing, what's in the book, oh, it's in Japanese, but this one's code. Like, I feel like it was all kind of vague.
it's all kind of there just to get them back together, is what it is.
Yeah, I think the second the moment they find that huge hole, that's when it, for me, that's when that story now is like kicked into full gear.
I think that's
the end of the next one.
That's the next one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that when we go through more of it. Only other point I would bring up in this one is that Karen and Matt kiss in front of Foggy when he's saying goodbye to go and do something, and Foggy's like, wait, whoa. When did this, is this a thing now? Like, and I liked his reaction to it. But looking back on it, it does actually kind of point out how they kind of... It's weird because I was complaining that I didn't want there to be a love triangle, but I'm almost going to complain that they kind of drop it far too easily later.
Yeah, they do.
My problem here was, hadn't Foggy spoke to what's his name, his ex-girlfriend? Her name?
Marcy.
Marcy.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that.
But then Marcy does meet with him and say, hey, you haven't talked to me in 4 months. And he's like, isn't that pretty normal?
Yeah, but in that scene, which I think is before this, doesn't he tell her that Matt and Karen are starting something?
No, it's
like
after the scene, I think.
Oh,
I
is
believe
it?
it's after, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's after.
Right, okay.
It may even be this episode, but after, or the next one. But
I thought, for some reason, I thought it was before, and like he already knew by that point.
Which is also the scene they mentioned Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She name drops her, which is cool. So that's pretty much 6. Really. But yeah. So yeah, so this one basically ends with Foggy telling Matt, "Where the hell have you been? Not answering my calls. Frank pleaded not guilty. We have to go to trial," and they're rushing it. So that was the cliffhanger at the end of 6. So we get episode 7, and it's called Semper Fidelis. I'm going to assume that's a different language, and
That's the U.S. Marine Corps.
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
It's Latin.
Really, I'd never heard of that in my life.
Have you not heard them say like Semper Fi?
No.
Oh.
News to me. I'm so sorry. I don't know the
No,
terminology.
it's just weird to me.
Yeah, I
in
thought
like
it's one of those just common things in TV and films in general.
Yeah,
But I thought-
anything with like whenever they have Marines in anything, they say Semper Fi at some point.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Didn't Frank say it to the Marine on
did.
the roof? Yeah.
Yeah, he
It's,
even
uh,
stops
means
him. He says
forever free.
he's walking down the stairs and he says, "Hey, Marine, Semper Fi,"
Yeah.
and then he just walks away.
At least because I don't know what it means, so if I do hear it, I just kind of...
It's like their motto. Their saying thing. I can't remember what it translates to now, but
Okay. So episode 7. And this starts with a really cool little montage of them selecting the jury for the trial. And it shows how the public split 50-50 on how to deal with Frank Castle. Half of them think he's a menace and he's a murderer. The other half think, no, he's cleaning up the streets. Let him do what he does. So, no, that was a nice touch at the start. But there's some good character stuff for Frank in this episode because he refuses to claim PTSD. And he says it's an insult. And what I really liked about this scene is like, no, it's not an insult to me. It's an insult to everyone else who actually has it.
Yeah.
I like that. That was a nice touch.
His characterization. I mean, ultimately, I think it was not weak, but he gets developed to a point, and that's it. And it's done really well, though. But there's not a whole much after that. And scenes like that are just from that development is done really fucking effectively and really realistically. The kind of things that someone who had served would kind of feel about things.
It's funny you say that because I've actually heard that complaint about the Punisher in general. Now, I've not read Punisher comics.
Well, the thing, okay, I was going to bring this up too, is here they actually give him characterization, whereas in a lot of the comics, he's more Terminator, force of nature style of a character. Like in probably the most famous Punisher run by Garth Ennis is from the perspective of everybody else, looking at him as just like this force to be reckoned with,
Yeah.
not necessarily as a human being.
Yeah, well, because I've often heard that Punisher has an origin, right, but he doesn't really have much after that, because he's just a guy who kills bad guys.
Yeah, but it depends on who's writing him, because he also has friends.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it does.
There's a reference to Microchip,
Yeah.
and that's one of his friends and allies. And then if you read like the latest of like Edmondson stuff, he's got friends in the military to help him out, and cops, and contacts on a dog, Coyote.
Yep.
So it just really depends on who's writing him.
Well, Matt misses the start of the trial, and Foggy gets super pissed about it later. But Foggy does actually step up and have a pretty good opening statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again is really showing that he's actually good at his job, and harkens back to that scene in the hospital that I really liked in episode 4. But this is the scene where Matt takes him out of the toilet and explains to him that Elektra's back, and that's who he's been running off to help.
Yeah.
I do like that because you start seeing that he has no idea what he's talking about. The stuff that he's saying does sound insane.
It
Like
does.
you understand, he's part of the cult, and this is Matt and some ninjas, and he's like, Matt, what are you talking about? Elektra? What? And you're like, you know what? In retrospect, this does sound pretty nuts.
I mean, it's a show about ninjas running around New York City, so
Yeah, well, it's just we've been watching these things happen, and then just at that point, I realized this is. I get it. This does sound
it's a
pretty
comic book
nuts.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest, I do kind of have a problem with how ridiculous the ninjas kind of are running around the city.
Well, I mean, it's
I
just
don't-
been like a thing that's been in popular culture for so long now. You know, it
probably is,
almost comes
yeah.
across as goofy.
It honestly does for me a little bit.
I think it's the way they run personally, because they try and stay quiet, so they take shorter steps.
Yeah.
It just looks
Well,
a bit goofy.
I thought they were really effectively done. If anything, they were really fucking creepy because they just said they do set them up and they just show up.
There is some good stuff later on, but a lot of the time it feels a little bit goofy, especially like a lot of the hand stuff feels goofy to me when they start bringing in big stone coffins and talking about ancient prophecies and all this stuff.
That's like the best stuff of the show.
No, it's not.
No.
That's
Nah.
the best stuff.
Just
That's
you
my
wait
favorite
until we
stuff of
get
the
to
show.
this stuff later, because we're going to
Easily
in
my
this.
favorite parts of the show.
This is Jessica Jones review all over again.
That's it. You know, you've got me on your side this time, Connor. Though.
No. Last time it was the Fisk versus Kilgrave.
Yeah. But back to this episode, because we're going to get to all that really in depth later. So they think this case is a complete losing battle, but they have this one thing that they might be able to do, and that's that the medical examiner falsified the reports, and if they can get him to admit that on the stand, they may get a mistrial because it proves there's some sort of corruption and so on and so forth. Elektra overhears one of these conversations and goes and threatens the medical examiner to tell the truth in court, but when this is brought up and he says this happened, it basically makes the whole thing null and void.
Yeah, my heart dropped at that moment for them. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
god damn it.
Yeah. I liked how Matt got angry and like properly grabbed the fuck out of her when he seen her next time.
Just grab her fucking face.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was like the end of Gone Girl. Not to spoil, I won't spoil Gone Girl, but there's a scene at the end of Gone Girl which reminded me of.
To be honest, I was glad to get some real courtroom stuff. Considering this is a show not just about superheroes, but it is
Yeah.
they are lawyers, and
Yeah,
I
because
feel
season
like,
one almost had no.
and I
portions.
felt that was a real problem with season one. There was only one scene in a courtroom that I can really think of in season one,
And it was early on.
yeah, and then there was a couple of bits in like in a police interrogation room that were lawyer-ish, but everything else was nothing to do with it really. There was never anything to do with their case other than we're building against Fisk by association of the Daredevil stuff.
Right.
So actually bringing in a proper case and having them have to do their job was really nice to see, I think.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think moving forward though, I think once that all of them know that he's Daredevil, this will be better because now they won't resent him for not being there to help out because they'll know that it's because he
Foggy-
got fucking stabbed, dude. That's why he wasn't here.
No, but Foggy
Yeah.
still kind of gets pissed at him.
Because well, the thing is though, is like
He also hates the thing being put in the middle though too, because
Yeah.
he's like, fuck, I can't tell Karen what's he actually doing. Like I'm mad at him, but now I'm even more mad because I can't even share it with Karen.
I actually thought this Foggy aspect was really frustrating for me because he does get really pissed at Matt, and I well understand why he's getting pissed. It was becoming kind of frustrating to watch because he kept getting pissed every time Matt had to go do something super heroic.
And this is what I was hinting at earlier and talking about, because he was showing in the first few episodes that he got the impression that he was really cool with Matt doing that, and he was okay with it, and he was on his side. But
well, I do think that they set up the idea that he is only taking out like just random dudes in the beginning.
yeah,
It's just, and then now he's transitioning into all the stuff with Stick and all of his background. He, for some reason, never shared. Like I assumed that between the end of last season and this season, they would have then shared. This is my life. This is what it's been like on this things you don't know.
he never
Now
communicates.
I
with them.
want you to be my friend. Now that you know my secret, but I guess he never told them, which I don't understand why.
Yeah, he doesn't communicate with them. And also, he told Foggy that he would be there for the opening statement, which implies that he's going to take responsibility for some
No,
of the case.
I get him being angry for that particular moment, but there's just other bits that I just feel like it went too far based on based on it.
Yeah,
but
a lot of
just
what
turns into a
a lot of
nagging.
what Foggy does in this season, and I guess in the previous season too, is relate him more to his job. Right? Is like, hey, remember you have this other thing to do. You have to keep that in mind. And it got to a point where you're kind of right. It was like the only thing that he was doing.
Yeah.
It was like saying, hey, you need to be here.
And it's a shame because the I can't remember, I don't know the actor's name, but he was doing a great job and like with all his delivery and
One of
stuff.
the Bash brothers from the Mighty Ducks.
Eldon Henson is his name.
Thank you.
It's Alan.
But yeah, I feel like he was doing a great job with his delivery. He just wasn't being given any range of material to work with. He had the comedic stuff in the first few episodes, and then pissed at Matt.
Well, like I say, once we get past this court stuff, he basically disappears, along the odd appearance. So he's given nothing really.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame. All the stuff that happened in this episode, Matt and Elektra go to this guy to translate the stuff, and he's got like hookers and stuff, and he's thoroughly grotesque. And what I like about this scene though is Matt holds him up against the window because they're in like a penthouse, and he keeps punching the glass, so he'll do it. The idea being that after he punches it enough times, the glass is going to break. And then it breaks
just
after.
enough.
Yeah. It was effective torture.
Yeah,
it was.
Then he still goes up to it and just touches it.
And it just
shatters.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a nice touch.
So good,
I like that.
so good.
Yeah.
I like that. Also, if Karen asks Matt in a scene if he believes what Daredevil doing is good, if she asks him about vigilantes and stuff, and he gets really pissed at her actually because she starts saying how what Punisher does is kind of okay, like she kind of sympathizes with it, and it's kind of like bringing up one of the themes of the season, which is really the difference between Daredevil and the Punisher.
Yeah.
What is that difference, and does that make what he does okay? Which honestly, this scene for me kind of accents maybe the problem with that, and I don't think the show is very muddled, right? The show muddles its messaging here, I think, with this theme throughout the season.
Yeah.
I think the stuff with the people, or like just regular people, it does, but I think the stuff with Stick and Elektra is done really well.
See, what I feel like they were trying to do is what they did in the first season, which you had Daredevil and the Kingpin, which you can see the parallel there, right?
Yeah.
And you can see where they diverge. You could have done the same thing with this, with Punisher and Daredevil, and then you could have had Elektra in the middle trying to basically wage war with herself and figure out which way she wants to go. Because she does end up doing that. At one point she tells Stick to fuck off, and then she's going to be with Matt, right? And she kind of keeps going back and forth. And you don't really get a sense that that's what's happening here. It feels like it's supposed to be, but it's not really illustrated that well.
No, it's not.
I think
I feel like
go ahead, Connor.
it's all summed up by Frank at one point. I'm not sure if it's in this episode or a little bit later, where Frank's talking to Matt and he says it's not a one-time thing. Like you can't just do it once.
Yeah.
I think that's the best instance where the show has the message.
Right.
But
I think this is a part where I really like all the ninja stuff and all the stuff with the hand and all that. After that point, I definitely don't like the subplots with Frank and even Frank in general because he's not really doing much. Like
Yeah.
the prison stuff is great, but when he's not there, he's just kind of this guy that just appears randomly. Sometimes.
What I would have loved is if are we on the prison?
No, not quite yet.
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll save it. I'll save
Let's
it.
save it. Okay.
Yeah. But they just seemed like they didn't know what they were going to focus on because it was really hard to relate because all of the mystical stuff is so different, departed from the everything else we've seen. And how grounded Fisk was because he was just like a business guy that was just really big.
Right.
And now we're really getting into all this magic. It just doesn't work.
That's part of my problem in general. It feels fractured because the Frank stuff is so grounded, and it is again in the same vein as the Fisk stuff, and then that is just it's like a completely different show.
Yeah, and up to this point, still good, and I'd argue still great for another couple of episodes. And we'll get to where that starts to deteriorate a bit. But this episode actually ends with once they translate stuff and they find the train with the sand in it or the dirt in it, and then they find the place at the end, which is an old building where the Hand have apparently been digging a giant hole. And I'll admit, I did like the cliffhanger because it was kind of funny how it's like, all right, tell me when the was it a coin drops, whatever it is?
It's a torch.
Torch.
I'll
Yeah.
try it.
Tell me when the torch hits the bottom, and it waits like 10 seconds, and it just cuts to
Just
black,
cuts,
and you don't,
yeah.
yeah. And I was like, wait, is this going to be like a hole that goes to the other side of the planet?
I thought it was like, is this like a bottomless pit? Sort of thing?
But no, the episode 8, called Guilty as Sin, starts with it finally hitting something, and I'm being like, alright, that's it. Now, episode 8 is where we're going to start fighting, because I think episode 8 is the weakest episode of the season.
What?
I really did not like this episode at all. We're about to go to war on this episode.
I'll be honest.
Fucking ninjas show up.
During this episode, I was like, okay, this is when I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go to bed after this one. Because it was like 3 in the morning. I was like, okay, I'm getting a bit tired. This episode's all right. I'm going to stop after this. And then I got to the cliffhanger and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, now I have to watch another one.
For me, it was like the first I was like technically better. It was just I feel like the Frank stuff in the beginning was just Punisher was like a movie, like that could easily be cut and just be shipped as a movie, and you got the complete story.
Yeah, those 4 episodes could be cut down to about 2.5 hours, and then be like, right, there you go, there's a movie.
Yeah. And that was I think technically better, just better written, just because all that stuff is way better. But
Oh, it was better.
all the stuff with the lecture at that point, way more excited, smile on my face, super excited. I couldn't stop watching. This is when it really hit me, like, oh, this is Daredevil. This is really good.
I agree.
My first complaint here, and I'm going to get really.
Why don't you give us a synopsis for everyone?
Alright, do you want a synopsis here?
Yeah, well, you've done it on the rest of them. So.
Alright, sorry, okay. Right, so Stick shows up to save them, because ninjas show up and they attack Elektra and Daredevil. Stick shows up and helps them out, and they go back to Matt's place, and they spend a lot of the episode there actually debating about various things. And Karen catches Elektra there, and meanwhile we've also got the trial stuff going on, but we'll get to the trial stuff later. We'll keep it separate since we've kind of been complaining that they kind of separate into 2 plots, so we'll just tackle them.
It's one of the rare instances where sometimes we'll talk about plots and we'll say, oh, we'll start with this and we'll mix and match.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases where I don't think we will.
Nah, we may as well
There's
just
that much to mix and match.
we'll just do this half first, and then we'll do the trial plot second, right? Now I'm going to get some serious heat from these two
So
on this
cool.
one.
I mean, they just
Right.
show up, and he's like, I can't sense him.
I don't think I'm quite as
Concentrate the
radical
weapons.
as Pete at this point. I'll be honest.
I don't like Stick.
Yeah, I don't have
Oh,
this problem.
Stick is easily one of the best parts of the show.
I think he's easily one of the weakest parts of this show.
I don't
dislike him.
I dislike him later on in this season. I think he diminishing returns applies to Stick.
I think
He's
he feels
basically Nick Fury.
I think he's out of a different show. And answer if I'm wrong, right? Does he have any reason why he can do what he does when he's blind? He's not like Matt, who's got like these extra abilities.
Well, there's something they don't explain in this, and there's certain people that just are born with these extra abilities.
I got that impression in season 1 when Stick was training him, and he's like, and because he can clearly do it the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I got the impression it wasn't the radioactive gunk in his eyes. That just burned his eyes out and made him aware of these other senses.
Yeah.
Essentially, it kind of
Really-
it was
really-
like an awakening.
Really like Frank Miller, the Man Without Fear. I think it's explained in there pretty well as far as because that's kind of summarizes a lot of what's happening in his life.
I'm going to have to admit here, see, during this episode when he was like starting to fight some people, I was like, wait a minute, he's just actually fucking blind. Like, what? How is
We saw this in season 1 where he was taking out all the dudes at some point as well.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but I'd forgotten that because it's been honest since I watched season 1.
see, I got that in very. I've not read that comic that you just mentioned there, and I got that impression from just season 1. So
Alright,
think
okay,
that's
be that as me. Okay, maybe that complaint's out the window. Fine, right? Okay, but I still don't like him. He feels like he's out of a different show. He shows up and he drags everything into this mystical bullshit, which for me
Fucking tightness.
is not what I like about this show. I like everything else about this show, and then this hand shit comes into it, and there's ninjas everywhere, and no, I didn't like this episode.
Oh, but
I think
the
it's
ninjas
fucking
are so,
awesome.
the ninjas are so
I think
cool.
it's so fucking good.
Every time they show up, I'm like, oh, I get giddy. I turn into a kid.
I like them at first. I get less keen on all the hand stuff as it goes on, but in this episode, I thought they were cool.
Because it showed up out of nowhere. Because he specifically scans. Because he even stops. Matt, do you hear anything? No, we're good. We're alone. And then they just start showing up, and it just starts kind of
Yeah.
like, holy shit, these guys are really coming like out of the shadows.
And it was okay that they were there because they'd set up this building that they were in was the one that Fisk gave to the hand.
Yeah, it's their building, so it makes
Yeah.
sense that they would be hiding in the shadows there.
Yeah. So I didn't mind them at all in that bit.
Poison fucking blades. I mean, it's classic ninja.
Yeah, that was cool.
Poison fucking everything.
I have no problem with ninjas in general. I just
You have a problem with fantasy stuff, and that's where a lot
You
of
do.
stuff stems from.
Anything with magic, anything that just is. Because with a lot of magic, it just is. There's logic to
I
it.
do. Right, you're right. But I have more of a problem with it when it's in something that was a world that had no magic to begin with.
I mean, I do agree that like the Bendis stuff, the Bendis comic book stuff, handles a lot better of how they transition in and out. And one of the things that I don't understand is why Matt never picked up a fucking sword. Again, you have crazy ninja augmented vision. You can stab somebody and not kill them.
Yeah.
Why can't you pick up a sword or a staff or a sai or something? Fucking pliers, man. Just stab someone with pliers. But in the comic books, the stuff where the mob comes to him, the you know how the Japanese yakuza show up, the young ones, and he picks up a weapon and he goes to fight like 60 dudes in the middle of the street while the FBI are watching.
Yeah.
And they do a really good job of grounding it and showing how the real world people would react to this situation where these yakuza guys just show up and he turns into a ninja.
Right.
And here it's not done as well. It's very clunky because you're transitioning in and out of a courtroom situation, and Frank Castle, who's a regular Marine, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden there's ninjas again. Like, what the fuck?
I agree with that. I feel like, again, I think that if you had related the hand stuff and Frank at the very beginning, you had both of those things going, then it would have been a lot better.
I do think that the hand all came in far too late into the show to
Yeah, it was-
actually be effective.
It was very jarring to me, even when it's explained, because like Stick sits down with Matt and Matt like right, explain this bullshit, and Stick just gives him this exposition dump.
Yeah.
It start talking about this ancient prophecy, or whatever, about them, you know, looking
The
for
black
this
sky.
thing, the black sky, and like, I'm just like,
I have a problem with the black.
I have a
sky,
problem with the
too.
black sky.
I'm just for me,
What? There was a kid who was the
Exactly.
black sky, and he killed him. But now we established that ever since Elektra was born, or he kidnapped her and took her away from the hand and joined her to the chase. Then why would there be another black sky?
Can there not be more than one?
Well, that's
Well,
the thing. That's where
in
it's
the
really
first-
muddled.
In the first season, Nobu says that they're really hard to come by, right?
Yeah, but it implies
So that
there's
implies that there's
multiple.
more than one.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I implied from that is that there were immortal weapons. They were basically setting up the idea of the Immortal Iron Fist and all the weapons that he represents. But here, they've already called two of them Black Sky. Had they kind of confirmed that he wasn't the Black Sky, he actually was a serpent, or whatever the hell other weapon they wanted to make up, that's fine. But they just don't really explain how that worked out.
Yeah, my biggest problem with all of the hand stuff, with the Black Sky, with prophecy or whatever you want to call it, is that they don't go in depth with it enough. They don't explain it thoroughly enough.
and they dump it all in the one scene.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
do.
and I think that's the biggest problem, and also is a problem later on whenever Stick eventually turns on Elektra. And I know I'm getting ahead of everyone else,
Yeah.
but I feel like, you show all this stuff of her being trained, coming up with Stick, and he obviously cares for her, to all of it just suddenly just happens to send out a
Yeah,
dude named Jock to kill her.
One, you know, we had that one episode with him last season.
Yeah.
He was permanently in, and we had that like not end credit sequence.
Of the tease at the end, yeah.
Yeah, where he's talking to. I don't think we ever.
Master Iso
We don't really know if that was him. We don't know exactly who it was, but somebody from the Chased, and we never see him talking again. What would have been nice is to have the perspective from his side, because clearly he's Nick Fury for the ninja stuff. He's making decisions. He's aware of a lot more than they are, and he's making decisions based on everything he knows, and then does it. And then to them, it just seems like bullshit. But it's because he has all these things that are happening, and you can see ahead why this thing needs to happen to stop this other bigger thing from happening. So it would have been nice to see some background to where he's coming from and why he's not. Because he kind of just comes off like a douchebag, like really just comes off like a douchebag.
I mean, he is a douchebag. He's a.
But you know what I mean? Like he's supposed to be kind of in a gray area. Like he's kind of a douchebag, but he's all right.
Yeah.
And they would have done that by showing why his intentions are at the end good. He's trying to do something right.
It just we said. I mean, it is muddled. It's dumped all very quickly. And as much as I definitely don't have a liking a fantasy over other things, especially when it's sort of shoved into something that doesn't already have it, if you seed it in slowly, piece by piece, I may not have a problem with it because it'll slowly sort of get me into the mood of it and slowly. I think one example I'll bring up actually is kind of Lost in a weird way, where right from the get-go in Lost, and whether you like it or dislike it, it's not really the point here. It's more just that it starts seeding in all these weird little things and it sets you up for the fact. So by the time it gets to like proper like out there bullshit, like 3 seasons in, you've been getting teased for ages.
Like a polar bear in the tropical island.
Exactly. That's the point of it.
I mean, that terrible thing that made me turn away from the show completely.
Not terrible. Fantastic.
Anyway, I agree with you. I agree with that completely, Peter. But it still doesn't stop the fact that I think that Stick is a fucking.
It's
awesome
fucking cool.
What
What would have been cool is they already set up the idea they can mask themselves from Matt.
Yeah.
What if throughout every episode or throughout quiet moments, he suddenly gets a flash of something there, and you just see like a leg. You know what I mean? Like just showing that there's things in the shadows.
Do you know what I'd love is the idea in like half the episodes we see it as an audience just in the background hidden is Stick. Just always keeping an eye on Matt, but he never sees him because he's hiding himself as well.
Or a ninja.
Yeah.
Both.
Something.
I wasn't even sure I was that keen on the idea that they can master heartbeats so that he can't hear them.
But they already set it up in the first season.
No, they did. But it's about
that doesn't bother me.
It's about.
I mean, at the same time, like, because I think one of you guys mentioned the abilities and all these people showing up and doing these things, but Matt also has all these powers, so you kind of have to go with a certain amount of abilities, like the fact that he can see things in fire.
Yeah,
that's what he's making everything with fire.
It's definitely a world where things can happen, but all of a sudden there's all of this stuff with all this baggage attached to it. And honestly, when it started showing them scenes with them with this big stone coffin and all this talking of properties, it started to feel like a movie out of the 90s to me.
That's where it lost me as well. The coffin and the stuff. I mean,
those movies out of the 90s were my favorites. So I'm sorry.
What do you mean, like the Phantom and not the Phantom?
I mean the
Phantom, the Shadow. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the idea of those isn't a bad thing. It just it felt so divorced from the rest of this show, where it's like it's
that's
in
my
this
biggest
gritty
problem.
crime drama, and then
that's why I kind of wanted the other plots to go away and just have it be ninja 24/7.
I disagree. I wanted the
I would have been totally on board with that.
And get rid of the ninja shit.
I feel like the ninja shit should have started earlier, but less of it at the start and built to it. If it had built more naturally over the season, it would have been fine. It's when it was this dramatic cut-off where you had Frank, gritty, 4 episodes. Then Elektra is, for the first 1 or 2 of Elektra, it's still pretty like grounded for the most part.
Yeah, because it's just Elektra and him. Like,
it's Yakuza, so it's fine. And
then
then
how you do that? You introduce Bullseye. I thought about this. And I'm not just saying this because he's a comic book character. Bullseye is Irish, first of all, so you can relate him to the Irish mob. He's also an assassin, and he works with the hand a lot.
And he works with Fisk sometimes.
Yeah, and he has Wilson Fisk. Like that's a connecting character that you could have thrown in there, and had Bullseye or Punisher go after him because he's actually the one that killed all of his family. You know,
right.
I mean. it just seemed like such an obvious thing to me because like they brought in Nobu again, and you didn't really need to be there. Like you could have had Bullseye in that role.
Which, by the way, Matt seems to get over the fact that he should be dead.
Do you know what?
Really quickly.
That's something that really
Yeah.
bothers me. He kind of is really confused about it at first, and then he accepts it pretty quickly. And there's a bit, I'm jumping ahead, I think it might even be the last episode, where he says a line that to a lecture how he just doesn't buy all this mysticism stuff and he just can't believe in it. And he's just like, he might not understand things, but that doesn't mean he has to jump to those conclusions. But he's been fine with Nobu literally coming back from the dead in front of him.
I don't think that he's fine with it. I think he just kind of sacks
he
up
doesn't
and goes.
understand it.
He just sacks up and goes, I still need to kill him either way, though.
I've got one more thing to complain about in episode 8, actually, before we move on. So, Elektra's like sick in the bed, and Matt and her have a sort of heart-to-heart, and he's like, you can be good, you can be better than this, you know, so on and so forth. And she says, alright, I'm going to be good, I'm going to leave Stick. And she says Stick, she's leaving him, and that makes it sound like they were a couple, they weren't, you know what I mean? Like, she's going to go away from him and be good and be with Matt and be, you know, I don't know, Daredevil's Robin or whatever, whatever they were aiming at. She like, don't get me wrong, I was
It's more like
expecting her
Catwoman, but
yeah, whatever. But I was expecting her to, of course, go back in this eventually and realise that no, killing's in her blood. It happens literally 5 minutes later.
It happens way too fast. I agree with that.
And it's like proper, like the way she slits the guy's throat and the blood like spurts all over Matt. It's like you could not have done that in any worse way after that promise.
Yeah,
3 minutes
it
ago.
wasn't even like she struggled with it and then did it in the heat of the passion. No, she pulled his head back and slit his throat like a fucking serial killer.
It what's worse is it was after Matt had beaten him and he was there and he was defeated, and then she kills him anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, I just don't even.
Yeah.
I hated this episode. I'm sorry.
I like the courtroom stuff more. I think.
Yeah, the courtroom
like
stuff.
Frank's,
I didn't
Frank's
even
witness
remember
speech, I
there was
loved.
any.
This is the one where that cop seems to have made some sort of deal with Frank that we don't know about yet, and Frank explodes in the trial, saying that he's not insane. He'd kill them all again if he could.
We also have Schoonover or whatever his name is, the Colonel, who explains the story of what
That's
happened.
important to mention.
I really liked that moment as well when the DA comes up after. She's like, "Yeah, but you weren't there. Like, how do you know what happened?" He goes, "Oh yeah, that was me. I was that fool."
So it's funny. Seeing the first shot of him in the booth, I could tell he was missing an arm. So when he said it, I was like, "So that was him," but he was talking as if it wasn't. But then it was a plot point, like, you know, a minute later.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice it.
It was the way he was holding his other arm. It looked like someone holding their fake arm.
Oh, well caught then, I suppose.
And I thought maybe I was just imagining things until it came up, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He's talking about someone who lost their arm. That's going to turn to be him.
I thought that was a really good moment.
Not that you would think this guy's
I
going to
like
turn
that
out to be
movie,
the
but
criminal mastermind
I
behind everything later. But
I thought this was a little cheesy. I'm really not liking this most of the courtroom stuff, and I really didn't like this much. It just felt he was so, you know how Will Smith makes fun of all of the Marines in Men in Black. Best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
That's what that dude was being, and it was just like, dude, you're way too stereotypical Marine right now.
Do you know why I think that's funny though? Because that actor playing him, I'm sure I've seen play this role multiple times.
Oh yeah,
He was the guy in Shawshank Redemption, right?
Yeah,
He was
He
the-
was,
he
yeah,
did
he was the
taxes
guard.
for him.
Yeah, he was one of the guards, yeah.
I think it's okay that he was stereotypical Marine though, because he was trying to appeal to a jury about Frank being this model soldier, and so I think by playing up the idea of him being a stereotypical Marine, which is what the public image is kind of a smart thing to do for his.
I guess it's because you transition from Frank being so realistic, and then this is like the stereotype from like a shitty network show would do a Marine. And they really made it stick out like that's kind of cheesy.
Now, the best part of the episode, by far, is the cliffhanger.
I really wanted to sleep. It was 4 a.m. by the time this
What was
started.
the cliffhanger?
Basically, Frank goes to prison, and we see him meet Wilson
Oh.
Fisk in prison. Which, I mean, you could see it because it was like as he was getting to prison, and they're leading them somewhere. You're going, right? Well, there's only one person that we know of who could possibly be in prison right now.
Yeah, but it was such a good moment.
It was
Unless they
Yeah.
threw us like a
I
really
think
weird
that's
swerve and gave
okay.
us someone from a movie.
he had like every
fucking.
fucking weight on that one bar.
Yeah, 'cause he was pushing like 6, dude. Like 6. I was just no problem. Didn't worry about it.
He gives Matt a run for his
Although
money.
what I wanted to
Let's put it
do
that way.
was to like put up like 6 plates and then like reach over and like grab a cheeseburger or something.
Do you know? It was really because, as you know, I didn't like this episode, so this was like really refreshing. After not liking everything in this episode, to get him at the end, it was like, oh, thank fuck, the next episode should be better. Like, you know, I really felt that way.
And I
Episode
feel
9.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I was just going to say, just that immediately told me that we were actually going to tie in a bit more to season 1, because I feel like this has kind of forgotten a lot of what was season 1
Yeah.
and kind of glossed over it. Like Ben's barely mentioned, and that was such a big part of it. And again,
Yeah.
the whole thing against Fisk has barely been mentioned.
Yeah, well, episode 9 is called 7 Minutes in Heaven. And, that's a kind of ironic title. I get it, but it's amusing. So, we start off with we get like a sort of flashback of like Fisk coming into prison and sort of setting up the backstory of how he gets his cronies in there and how he's sort of struggling for money and paying these people off so that he can be the kingpin of the prison. This is the episode where they actually said this like multiple times, because the other guy's like, there can only be one kingpin. And then Fisk sort of takes that because he's like, no, I'm going to be the boss here. Cause,
As soon as that other guy said it, I was like, they're actually going to give him the name now.
yeah, that's just how it's going to come up, because he's going to take it now for his own. Highlight of the episode, though, of course, is the fight.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that part was
Just
awesome.
Frank's hallway fight, so to speak.
There's something about the way Punisher, he does it a couple of times in the show, but one of them's in this scene. There's something about him stabbing someone repeatedly, really quickly, that's really satisfying.
Damn, Peter. Telling you, one lab accident away from being
No, just the way he quickly keeps stabbing him in the stomach, and it's really brutal.
Don't go to a university and do not go in the chemistry area. Ever.
Turn to the fucking lizard.
It's gonna be a chemical's gonna fall on him. Alyssa's gonna fly slowly down, land on him.
Because this fight was very much my kind of like hand-to-hand combat fight in like a movie, where it's like really brutal, really bloody, blood spraying everywhere,
Very
really
fast.
visceral, you know.
He hits people and they don't get up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I really like that fight. This episode really picked me up after the last one. There's still some of the stuff for the last one, obviously still going, but so all that prison stuff I thought was cool. Like Frank. I thought I was going to say Fisk. Then I said Frank. I was like confused myself. But Frank, like when Fisk like makes him his proposition and all that, and he's like, "I ain't working with you, you piece of shit. You're a scumbag." Yeah, 2 times him and all that, or double crosses him, I should say. So I liked all that prison stuff, and this is the episode where Foggy and Matt break up.
And I
So-
feel like this is the exact same point as in season 1, as when when
Yeah.
I feel like that was episode 9 where
It was, because episode 10 I think was the Nelson v Murdock.
yeah, and it was the exact same point, and it was just like it just felt. This is where it really hammered home that it was a rehash of that plot when it was in the same point of the season.
Yeah. That stuff for this episode was frustrating. I think the way I described this one actually is that had the rest of the stuff lived up to the prison stuff, this might have been almost on par with 3 and 4 for me. But as
I'd
it
agree
was,
with
it
that,
was
yeah.
kind of 50-50. It was like I really liked the prison stuff, but a lot of the stuff outside the prison was a bit more rough.
I also feel like Dutton, who was the guy who was supposed to be the kingpin of the jail cell or the jail. I feel like he should have been like it as far as Punisher's story goes, because like after that, I feel like after this point, whenever Punisher gets out and he just goes after these other people just randomly,
Yeah,
I
'cause
feel like it's really really wonky.
Isn't this the first time we hear about this other guy? And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's the
Yeah.
blacksmith.
Blacksmith.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, then it gets really
Like-
convoluted.
that's that just is too much. And I feel like if he had gone and like somehow became like the symbol of the Punisher, gotten the vest with all the
Yeah.
guns and everything, it would have made so much more sense later on whenever he goes to help Daredevil.
Yeah, I do agree. The only thing I disagree with necessarily is that I don't think it was a problem in this episode itself, because we don't know where it's leading. You know, like it was fine in the moment because I didn't know where it was going. But in
Yeah,
hindsight,
yeah.
in hindsight, I agree that it was the start.
I do think that Durton could have had a bit more weight to him, considering he was supposed to be the kingpin of the prison. We never really saw him even do anything or
So he
boss
should have
anyone around or anything.
You saw him counting money, and that was about it.
Because it
Yeah,
was so short. Because there wasn't I mean, that whole stuff was really short. It wasn't much going on. Like it was like if Punisher was in prison for a day.
yeah, and
yeah.
I think
but
he
felt
was,
like,
actually.
You know how
But
we
it's just
saw,
like
we saw at the start the flashback with Fisk going in and how he wants to take over. I feel like another scene showing what the situation actually was and how much power this guy had and what Fisk had to gain would have been much more effective.
yeah.
I actually see when the episode started, I actually thought the entire episode would have been the story of Kingpin in prison up until that point at the end of the last episode. I thought the entire episode would have been the story of how he became the Kingpin of the prison. You know, kind of like some TV shows have done that in the past, where they'll do like an entire flashback episode of, like kind of like the Shield episode where we see it's just Simmons on the planet. We'd get that entire story.
Yeah.
Of him in the prison, and I was actually kind of disappointed that it wasn't that when we started. We just cut to present day again.
Yeah.
But hey, it was definitely nice to see him. Other stuff in this one. So Matt tracks the hand, and he finds he finds Nobu and the people in cages who have been drained of their blood, and that's kind of how the episode ends.
It was dope.
Pretty much.
That was fucking creepy as shit.
That was, yeah.
It looked good, but I was just like, really, Nobu?
Yeah, I wasn't kidding Nobu.
I was just feeling like Nobu wasn't exactly much of a threat last season. He didn't really have much presence. He had one good fight and then lost anyway, and he got outmaneuvered by Fisk. So it just felt like setting him up as this big guy like here.
Like I feel like it would have been fine if he would have come back, but in like a different capacity.
Yeah, but
Like
he was
maybe
kind of
been
the
like a
leader.
much higher up on the scale.
Yeah, well, that's the way I feel about it. Is like he got in a fist fight, got his ass kicked really hard, and then now he showed up with his entire crew,
Yeah.
and that's really where the strength
guess.
comes.
I guess. Other things to mention here is so Nobu's apparently been resurrected. This is when Matt sort of like sees him and is like, wait a minute, you burned alive. Also, Karen continues to investigate things even though the case is technically over, and this is where she gets Ben's office, like the boss of the paper
Right.
gives her Ben's office, which I felt like it was a bit easy, but at the same time I did like the scene because I liked her getting into the office and we've seen the same sort of framed like papers.
Yeah, it was a nice moment, and it was like a passing of the torch that Ben was obviously grooming her to do anyway.
Yeah, which I think is fine. Like I like that. I think it's good to have a reporter on the show, but at the same time, I feel like it should still be Ben.
Yeah.
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 But at the same time, what was she going to be doing? So I suppose this kind of kills two birds with one stone. You've got this void you need to fill, and then what are we really going to do with her in a season's time? You know, so she can be doing this.
Yeah.
Also, there's that envelope with like information about her
Yeah,
sitting on the desk. I really want to know what that was.
It was something about her brother. I paused it. You can read.
Yeah.
I think she was in a car accident, and her brother. I think because you know how she mentioned her brother to Matt.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had a brother. I think she did something and got him killed.
I think she
like
was
by
maybe
accident.
driving drunk or something like that, or
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we know last season that she has something because obviously when she had the scene with the guy she killed. Yeah, Wesley. Thank you. And she obviously has this past. I feel like we've got so little teases of this, and it's just that needs to pay off next season.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
Yeah,
just
it
the comic.
does.
They're using the comic book knowledge though.
Right. Okay. So I don't actually know where that's going much, but
Because there's a big
feel like-
plot where the reason that Kingpin knows Matt's or Daredevil's real
Right,
identity
yeah.
is because he uses her.
I do know that. But I feel like it's too little spread out over too much.
I also feel like, she has this great connection with Punisher and everything, and I could see it come through, but I feel like she should have admitted to him about killing Wesley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they could have bonded over that.
Yeah, like that would have been a much stronger bond.
That's
between the
another
two
thing with
characters.
Karen. She kind of feels like that whole moment, which should have been like a massive defining moment, has kind of been forgotten for the most part. I feel like there was maybe one line where she said something that she was thinking back on.
I think Frank said something about you're like being weak or just being scared, And she kind of stands up to him a little bit, like, you don't.
Also,
You don't
just
Yeah.
that, she also, when he's talking about how what the gun she owns and how it's almost like it's not her first rodeo. Like, so there's
Yeah.
kind of small hints like that, but
I feel like it should have been a much bigger change in her person.
yeah.
There were just so many moments where I kept waiting for her to say it because I felt like she was going to, and then it just never happened. And so it was frustrating
Yeah.
for me that way.
Yeah. So that was number 9, and it ends, of course, with Fisk gets Punisher at prison.
After they have their little fight.
After they have a little fight, which is a good scene. This is the stuff where the 50-50 part of this episode where you had the prison fight, but then their conversation where they fight,
Yeah.
and then like still sort of finish their conversation was really well done. It was
Yeah.
really in character for both of them, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fisk gets him out because it's kind of to his benefit for him to kill every competitor possible before he gets out of prison at some point, which I'm assuming will be next season.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. So 50-50 that episode. So episode 10 is called The Man in the Box. And episode 10 was actually a bit of a step up for me, I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I really enjoyed this episode.
There's some stuff I didn't like, but I thought it was a
Yeah, a few little
pretty good
things,
episode.
but I liked that it was like because it starts with the cops coming in and they find like all these bodies that have been drained, and it's actually much creepier than it even was in the last episode. There's something about them just finding it and seeing it in the flashlights and all that, and Daredevil explains it to Mahoney, and they take them to the hospital, and this is when we see Claire again because like, oh, take us to this wing that's not being used, and we're sort of there off the books, and I liked all this stuff. I liked the setup here because it put them all in one location. We knew the Hand were going to come for them, and the only time that I actually kind of liked the ninjas was when they actually come for this. Because even you see them all climbing up the side of the building, and it's all
Yeah.
of them, and it
I
feels
love
like an
that
army.
shot.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that.
There's a couple of really good shots in here, especially like whenever they're all the 5 of the kids are like standing up
Yeah.
really creepy.
and the lights are flickering.
That reminded me of the Purple Man kids.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it reminded me of as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really creepy, and I did like that. Because for me, I thought, okay, maybe this is where the Hand stuff starts being annoying to me and starts actually being cool. Because I really liked some of the stuff in this episode. Maybe because it was getting more horror focused, and I do like horror. So well, maybe that's the cool
Showrunners take note for season 3.
Yeah, make it more. If you're going to have fantasy elements, make them scary, and then I'll be okay with it. So that's actually the cliffhanger at the end of this episode. It's actually really hard to split this one up and the next one up because
that fight stuff kind of continues.
it just kind of continues into the next episode. But all the things we need to mention. Actually, yeah, the other big stuff we need to mention this episode is that Frank's out of prison, and the assistant DA actually has a moment where she sees like Foggy, Matt, and Karen, and we actually feel almost a little bit of sympathy for her. Like she appears to be a bit more of a human, and then instantly gets killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what I didn't like.
Right.
Because they were obviously going, oh, look, it's Frank doing this revenge sort of thing, and it was just so blatantly obvious that it wasn't him. Like, even from an external perspective, for even someone who's not massively familiar with the Punisher, because they didn't show him, and they were like, and it felt like the only other time they'd hidden him doing stuff was back in episode 1, where we didn't know who it was.
Yeah, before we'd been revealed.
And
to
it just felt like, okay, so this is really obviously someone else. And it kind of felt cheap in that sense that they dragged it out for the whole episode for the audience.
I feel like if maybe you had a shot of him like getting ready or something, then you could kind of see it. Like
Yeah,
maybe
but it
see
was
him
like-
getting some guns or something. Then you could kind of question it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's just like it's so obviously not him.
That's true.
Right.
But what I did like about it though, I like the whole idea that they think he's on the loose and everyone's like terrified of who's going to kill him. I like that aspect to it.
Yeah, I like that stuff, but I wish that they'd clued the audience in, like confirmed it straight away that it wasn't him, instead of tried to play this game where it could be him.
Yeah.
Because it just came off as cheap to me.
Scene on the roof of the hospital with Claire and Daredevil, where she's basically trying to say like you can't just shove everyone out of your life.
Yeah, that's what she brings them coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like those scenes a lot when the two of them talk as human beings.
Yeah, they're good.
Good chemistry. And it feels human, it feels real, which is kind of my problem with a lot of this Hand stuff in the second half of the season, is that it doesn't feel very real to me.
Mhm.
But But I like that. So we'll just go straight into episode 11.
Whoa, hang on.
What?
This is the one where Matt goes and visits Fisk.
Oh,
At
you're
the
right. This
start.
is the other thing I loved. Yeah, you're right. Shit. It's because I've got it written down, but because it's a short set, it literally just says Matt goes to see Fisk.
I literally just put Matt versus Fisk.
Yeah, and so I missed it in my notes. Yes, this scene is one of the best scenes of the season,
Yeah.
and it made me wish there was more Fisk. It made me. It kind of almost made me go, oh, so I have to put up all this hand bollocks, and this is what we could be having.
Fisk was infinitely better.
Yeah, because this was fantastic. He goes to the prison and he basically whips it out on the table, and then Fisk whips it out on the table, and they have a a contest.
Well,
It looks like
Fisticuffs
this is
occur.
slightly bigger than Matt.
well, except Matt has something hidden too, though.
Yeah. And I love that because he had to restrain himself. You could see that he didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I like that. At first, you think that he just buys it because it's like, okay, your dad must have taught you that at some point.
Yeah.
Like the one punch. All right, your dad must have taught you that. But then he still like thinks about it and has him investigated.
Yeah, I just really like. I think for both characters, this is the last time we see Fisk in the season.
Yeah.
Which is actually more than I was expecting. When we got the whole big one in episode 9, I thought that was going to be it. No more Fisk.
Yeah, but
So when we got into 10 and this happened,
yeah, this was a fantastic scene. I really, again, it was kind of like his scene with the Punisher in the last episode, but it really both characters and the writing of both of them and their personalities, and even the Fisk saying, "When I get out of here, I'm going to destroy you and your friends," and it like I can already see myself getting really hyped in, really pulled into the story next season, if this is what it's going to be, where he's
Yeah.
coming after them and Matt has to like protect both of them, and I can see that being really, really captivating.
Getting Fisk back as a revenge story is already far more exciting, especially because we know he'll be going after Matt, not Daredevil,
Yeah.
perhaps, which is really exciting.
Well, what they'll probably do is have him be someone looking for him on both sides.
Yeah.
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 So I
will
could definitely see his identity coming out next
Yeah.
season.
and he's
Yeah.
going to have to juggle the fact that he has to protect his friends because he's going to go after
Yeah.
them as Matt, but he's going to have to maybe fight off Bullseye, who's been
Yeah,
hired to.
but
you know.
and I think
Yeah.
that's at least better is that it's in the books because everybody knows he's Daredevil. He can talk to them about it. So like there's scenes where Elektra shows up and then somebody will call her a ninja skank, and because everybody's on board with it, it fits more with the reality because it's not something he's you know what I mean. Because here he like literally, I need to go in this phone booth and become this character now, and then he goes off and does whatever he's doing. In the books, it's just part of his daily life that just transitions in now because they're all aware of it. Here it's just, I think that's really what disconnects it a lot. The fact that he's hiding this entire thing from everybody.
Yeah. I think it's down to, it's even when he doesn't have to hide him being Daredevil and Foggy, he's still hiding Elektra. So it's still, he has this need to hide something. And it's
Which
just
Foggy
kind
pulls
of,
him up on when he tells him.
he does.
He's like, "You lied again. What the fuck?"
He does.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a character flaw with Matt in the show that he has to keep things to himself.
Yeah.
But it kind of creates a problem from an external point of view that it kind of splits the show up.
It splits the show up, and it's kind of frustrating
Yeah.
for us as viewers. But yeah, going into episode 11 because we end with the ninjas all attacking the hospital. Just 10. Episode 11 is called Point 380. Obviously referring to a caliber of a bullet.
You just say 380, but
Yeah, I just say 380, but you know it's got the point, and you don't get the point from just saying 380.
I get it if it's an episode title like this.
Yeah.
You should because you'd type it with the point so you'd know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
if I just said
380
380,
caliber.
Yeah, you could have said that.
whatever. Like, so the captive kids actually turn out to be evil and kill people in the hospital.
Just fucking stab him and shit.
Yeah.
So that was
Sweet.
good. It was
Evil. It
creepy
looked good.
as fuck.
I like the start of this episode because the start of this episode was very much just a continuation of what was good in the last episode.
And it had a really cool moment near the start again with where he goes to save Claire,
Yeah.
like diving out the window and grabbing
Yeah.
the stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, some really good, cool, super heroic. I hate to refer to it as Batman moments because there's so many similarities between the two, but this really was making me think of Batman.
Yeah.
when he was
I mean,
diving out the
earlier
window.
in the show, he says, I'm going to rattle some cages. So,
Yeah, sure. But just jumping in a window just feels really Batman-y to me.
Yeah.
So Matt goes to see the old Asian lady from the first season, Madame Chow.
Gal.
yeah.
Cow.
Gao, sorry. and so we see her for one scene, and he tries to get the identity of the blacksmith.
Yeah, I don't really know why she was even in this episode because she really does not relate any information whatsoever.
I was really excited to see this when it first happened because of the fact that her drug thing in the first season was had the sign of the steel serpent from Immortal Iron Fist. So I thought, because it just feels like they're going to tie in the Iron Fist story to the whole chased hand situation in some way. So I thought this was going to be them starting to put in some seeds as to what that means. There being more weapons or something, and it just really didn't deliver.
Yeah, it just kind of ultimately felt a bit pointless, this whole scene.
Yeah, that's the thing with me, because I said at the start this episode was really enjoyable, but I felt like once we get past all the hospital stuff, it started to slow down again, and I was just kind of like, what was the point of a lot of
It
this?
says a lot that I can't really remember what else happened.
Well, I can tell you, Electra goes to get sticked, because in the last episode we quite mentioned this, but some guy came to try and kill Electra at the airport.
Oh, I really hated this.
Yeah.
I really hate how that fight kind of just jumped ahead out of nowhere, and it just seemed really out of place.
And then it turned out, as he was dying, he's like, the hand didn't send me, stick did. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah, that really just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
No, I mean,
don't get it.
I also don't understand the random dudes that drive him.
Yeah,
Like
I
they
don't
don't
get it
explain like.
I mean,
Are
they do in the flashbacks where they say like he's trying to build up an army with the chase and all that stuff, and they show all like the dudes that Elektra's fighting.
Yeah.
And so I get the idea that okay, there's more of them that are like followers or whatever. So I could see that, but it does kind of like come out of nowhere, and it's just like the chase is supposed to be like a really small group of people. So,
but then
I'm
why
not
are these just drivers who just sit there?
yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Be a little more proactive.
Your chased ability is to drive.
Maybe it's a cover story thing where, because obviously he's blind and can't drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is see when this first showed up at the start of 8 when they go into the car, right? Because it was cut all so quickly, at first I wasn't sure who was driving. I was like, wait a minute.
It took me a minute
I
to
was
figure
like,
out
is
as
Stick
well.
driving?
I thought it was too.
Yeah, what the fuck?
That would be awesome.
Although it was really cool when he like just shoots the guy.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like, because obviously they can like sense most of the world around them. Could they drive? Like, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine the problem would be like traffic lights because they can't tell the color.
Yeah, and they can't see that far ahead because they can only see as far as like the pings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like this. I love his attitude. He's like, because the ninjas are following them. And he's like, like keeping up. There's what does he call them? Like, there's speedy suckers or something like that, or
Something like, I don't remember, but I love how he's like, okay, we're through that wave. Here comes the next one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he just stops, hits a couple of them, shoots another one, and then takes off.
I love seeing all the arrows just hit the car and like stick in them. It reminds me of Mad Max that way.
Mm. It reminded me of the
love it.
scene in Wolverine. That's a deleted scene. It's not even in the movie, where he gets completely hit up with the arrows of all the ninjas just sitting on top of the buildings.
Yeah.
He's just going through the middle.
Yeah, it's in the extended R-rated version. Otherwise, Karen sneaks off with Frank to try and help find stuff.
Is
We get
that
that
where
scene.
the cops take her to the room?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she sneaks
And then they
out.
get knocked out. I at this point, I'm so tired of the Frank and Karen hiding. I just don't care.
Yeah,
I
they
just
had
don't
this in the diner,
care.
and some of that was good, but
I
Well,
feel like
when he talks, and he talks about character and people, it's always really good.
yeah.
It's just when the rest of it, this doesn't really mean anything.
I
at this point.
liked the scene where he was shooting them up in the diner and Karen was there, so she kind of witnessed the horror of it in the
Like,
room.
you hear the stabbing.
Yeah, and she kind of realizes how far he goes, perhaps.
Yeah.
That he's not even like just killing them
I
quickly.
think this was the
it's
second
brutal.
time we got in a good little flurry of stabs to the stomach.
Yeah,
that I enjoy.
Yeah, it was a good one. But yeah, so I liked that moment, but I feel like a lot of it just around it was really kind of just filler to get us to
It's
this.
just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is one where it ends in the boat, and he thinks he's found blacksmith, and he hasn't. And the boat blows up, and we're like, "Oh, is Frank dead? Could he be dead? Of course he's fucking not dead."
There is no tension from an audience perspective at
No,
all.
Yeah.
there's really not.
It's like we haven't even seen the skull yet. I mean,
Yeah, and it made Karen's reaction, and that went on for quite a while, feel really it kind of dragged on. It felt fake almost because we knew it was so blatantly obvious.
The other thing that happens right at towards the end is the hand starts to drain the kids. We don't really know what it's leading. It's just kind of a tease, like, oh, they're draining the kids now. They're all in baths and they're getting, whatever. And I think the cliffhanger at the end is Elektra showing up to kill Stick.
Oh, it ends on a Stick sharpening the blade.
Yeah, that was dope.
I did like that shot a lot.
Actually, doesn't maybe it's the end of the next one, but where like Stick's men, like who are like bloody and half dead, like drive in front of Matt's house.
That's at the beginning of the next one.
Is it the beginning of the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt that's really convenient. Like, they go to Matt and they're like, it's Elektra, she kills Stick.
I don't know if it's convenient. I mean, they would know to go to him because he's the only one of them that's left.
Well, he's alive enough just to get there. Like, I don't know. It just...
Well, yeah, I suppose he could have died too quickly, I suppose.
It's just very movie,
Yeah, I mean, going to him makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I guess he didn't necessarily need to be on his last breath.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have been living really close. You don't know. But...
Could be, but I mean,
why didn't they just take an Uber?
Sorry about the blood, bro, but go here.
It's all right. They get worse on a Friday night, I'm sure.
So that's episode 11. Episode 12, and we're getting late on now, is called The Dark End of the Tunnel.
So good.
Oh, sorry, The Dark at the End of the Tunnel. Sorry, I phrased that so wrong.
Kind of feel that way about this episode.
Elektra's
Just waiting for the light.
This is all this.
This pairs with episode 8 for me for being another shitty one.
What?
I feel like this is probably my least favourite.
These flashbacks to Elektra's childhood, I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Nope.
It's so good.
Nope. Didn't like it.
I just feel like it just didn't fit with everything else that was going on that much for me. It just kind of felt pointless. Like the flashbacks before with Elektra, like the ones with her and Matt, were fantastic because they really set up their relationship and established her character. Whereas these ones, it felt like we've seen her for a while now. We kind of know her. We get her. This kind of just felt a bit pointless to me.
Well, I think they're trying to flesh out the case. They're trying to chase. They're trying to show off the chase. Trying to show off training. Trying to show off where her training, how much she was trained.
Yeah, and I think the problem with that is I'm not investing in the chase at all because again we just got that one exposition dump and that was it, and I don't really care about them as an organization.
Yeah, if you two hadn't have said the chase about 5 times in this podcast, I wouldn't have remembered that's what they're called.
Yeah.
I
just feel like this, like, the main point of seeing her grow up and train and all this stuff is to establish like a relationship with Stick, right? Like, that's the main point of it, and just basically just show that there is an organization behind it. Really,
well,
I feel like if it would have come earlier
in this episode,
and
Stick like kills him almost instantly to protect her, but then he's like in present day he's trying to kill her now because she's the black. Like,
that's the reason why I don't understand why he turns on her.
I don't get it at all. It just no. I'm sorry.
No,
By the way, that there's a Easter egg. That guy you just talked about who he killed, his name is Star, and he is another one of the Chased who's in the comics. Just for people out there.
Well, I think the reason why he turns on her though is that he mentions a couple of times that he tried to break her and get her in line, but she just couldn't. He just couldn't get her to be controlled.
Even that doesn't work though, because Stick's willing to kill people. Surely, if he was trying to not make her an evil like person or whatever, or the bringer of darkness.
I get it when she was a kid because he's trying to get the weapon on his side.
Yeah,
I get it.
That's exactly what he's doing.
But I still feel like he's put that much effort in, and she's not that. She doesn't seem like she's that far gone to him. Like it feels like she's disowned him a little bit, but not to the point where she couldn't come back around. Certainly not to the point where she's going to join the hand.
And that's the thing is, like, you know, she tells him to fuck off, and that's basically whenever it happens. It feels like he's just being
petty.
You know, petty. Yeah. And trying to kill her over it. And it just doesn't work.
Well, I think that he had Elektra and he met Matt, and I feel like Matt ended up being his golden boy. That was his main guy that he really wanted to put behind him. He at that point was using her to get him, and the fact that now she was going to turn on him and turn on him to be with Matt, so now he would be losing both of them.
Yeah,
but you don't get that characterization from his point, right?
No.
And like if they had shown the connecting dots there a little bit more, then you would kind of get that.
As far as the flashbacks go, I liked seeing the parallels between her and Matt and the way Stick treated them.
Yeah.
I think those bits were good, but it's too late in the show. This is the second to last episode. This should have been earlier. Perhaps not the black sky is her reveal, but the stuff showing their early Stick and her earlier relationship should have been before they'd kind of gone to war with each other.
I agree with that.
And the other problem I have with this episode is that the present day stuff I think was really dull. Like it literally, forgetting the side stuff with Frank and Karen and all that stuff, right? Keeping it on Daredevil, Electrostick stuff, right? So Matt shows up at the start and stops from killing him, right? And they have a bit of a tussle. Then Ninja show up, they steal Stick, and
don't kill the others while they're knocked out. Whatever.
Matt's in the office, Foggy shows up, they somehow magically think of, it must be these places. Actually, you know what, this is something I have a problem with kind of a few times this season, is I feel like Matt really easily finds some places where people are hiding.
I feel like last season he had to put in a lot of work into going out, and we saw montages of him beating up people to get information and putting it together.
Don't get me wrong, this one was the worst of it, but there was a few times I felt a bit easy, but whatever, it's not important. You know, it's not a big deal on the show, ultimately. Whereas this one felt really easy to me, where Foggy just has this idea, there must be in these tunnels. You know?
Yeah, that was just kind of more like a suggestion, really.
Yeah, but it was just so convenient, you know?
Yeah.
It would have been it would have been nice if it was close, but it wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
Like that was a good starting point, and then he went from there to find something else that it actually was.
But then
I feel like if he had run into the hand ninjas a little bit more coincidentally, whereas it seems almost like he's kind of coming to them as opposed to them crossing paths, then he could have followed them and it would have been a little bit more believable.
Yeah. But the problem I really have, though, with all this stuff down here is that it feels like a lot of this episode is him just wandering these tunnels and occasionally fighting ninjas. And
well, that's when they figure out that he's using the weapons.
Yeah. And they adapt to that.
That's when they stop using the swords. They just start beating the shit out of them.
Yeah, my thing was, if he can hear the sword moving through the air, can he not hear the cloth ripple of their clothes and stuff? You know.
Well, because isn't this the one where he's like, go deeper, listen for their breath, they have to exhale at some point? This was this episode, right?
That's later on, yeah.
This is it, this episode, though, right?
That's in that fight, though, yeah.
And I was thinking, wait a minute, you're telling me
all this time they were just breathing?
Yeah, like, surely, like, I don't know about anyone else here, but I can hear people breathing near me long before I can hear the heartbeats.
Yeah.
Well,
long before.
Well, I think the idea is that when someone's far away, they're not breathing loudly, and two, when you have 6 guys beating on you, you can't keep track of all that information.
Well, but even just when when they're hiding in the rooms and he has no idea that they're there because he can't hear the heartbeats, but surely he could hear them breathing.
Well, they set up in the episode before that, which I really liked. That maybe the episode before that, I'm not sure what episode it was. I was looking for Karen, about him trying to focus, and Elektra to help him figure out, like, peel back the layers one by one.
I think that's in the next episode.
Yeah, that's in the final.
Is it the next episode? And that's what I kind of assume that he's been doing wrong, is that it's like a bunch of layers of noise, and he's just looking at the wrong layer, and he's just stuck on default mode there because he's been doing it for so long. Yeah. And that's even why Stick calls him, stop being a little bitch. That's all amateur shit. Why don't you do some of the big boy stuff, like concentrate on other things?
Yeah.
That's what I got from it.
It just felt really weird to me. I'm like, just from life, I can hear breaths before I can hear heartbeats. So to me, for him, like, they're masking the heartbeat, but he's not thought to listen for the breath. I don't know. It felt.
Yeah, I mean, if they're masking both things too, then it'd be a lot easier to hear the.
I mean, I don't even really buy that someone can mask the sound of the heartbeat, honestly. But
it's a ninja thing.
I know,
in fucking New York.
It really doesn't bother me inside the fight scene so much because he goes for the loudest, most consistent sound, which is the heartbeat. But when he's listening in a silent room, and it's not even that he's specifically listening for a heartbeat. He's just listening for anything is there any movement, any noise, anything, and he doesn't hear breathing. That's when it bothers me.
Yeah, I just think that his ability works differently than that, though.
Yeah, I think because they've established multiple times that he's constantly being completely flooded by not just sound, but everything.
So
he constantly has to filter all of it out to the things he needs to hear. And even they do this even in the books where he talks. Remember how he's looking at, like, Mila Donovan, When he's like, I'm concentrating way too much on just the way her vocal cords because I'm so like in love with her immediately. I need to tone back and actually listen to the words that are coming out of her mouth because I have no idea what she's been saying for the last
No,
15 seconds.
that's fair enough because they did establish that idea in the Stick episode last season where he's like, you got to filter it out. So, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like he'd noticed something.
Well, I think he's freaking out too because I think that the radar, you know how he's like the world on fire.
Yeah,
it's blank, and there's no heartbeats. And I think it's more him. I think it's trying to set up too that he's as good as he is. He's still an amateur to a degree, and he still has a lot to learn.
Yeah, I feel like they could have delved into this a bit more and better though.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, then you need more time to spend time with the ninja stuff.
Yeah, I just think that's
which is again, like I said, if you brought the ninja stuff in earlier, you could have built up this idea that he was such an amateur still and had to progress. Whereas it kind of felt really sudden, like, oh yeah, I'll do that instead, and then
I think we're back to this word muddled, where a lot of this stuff just feels muddled in.
Yeah. I think they just bit off more than they could chew. I mean, the idea of even having Punisher and Electro in the same season seems off to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could have
one
done
or the
it
other.
I feel like they could have done it if they had Bullseye, but
I just feel like it's really
is.
suffered from not having a consistent villain throughout the season.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're both anti-heroes.
Yeah, there was no villain for a long time.
Why would you do two anti-heroes? Don't do that.
It should be an anti-hero and a villain.
Yeah, just pick one of them and then have a real have Bullseye. He's a legitimate villain. He's not. There's no goodness in that one.
I don't even mind that. They could have just done the Hand and one of them still. Just
the
Hand needed to seem more of a legitimate threat to him.
Yeah.
As a person.
Yeah, if they gave
not
the
just
Hand,
as Daredevil.
if they gave the Hand like a head who was a really good fighter, who was like tougher than Nobu, right? That could have worked because they'd have like a central villain who maybe had a bit more personality. You know.
Yeah. And that was one of my problems with Nobu being the main physical threat, other than sheer numbers, because we've seen him beat Nobu, so it doesn't feel like it's a real threat.
Yeah,
my immediate thought was he basically got lucky last time.
But he outsmarted.
Barely pulled that off.
Barely, but he won by outsmarting him.
But then now he's rolling with ninjas. So I was immediately like, well, that's how you make over that barely.
Yeah, exactly. Just numbers. It feels it cheapens Nobu himself as a villain. It feels like the numbers are overwhelming, but Nobu himself isn't a threat really because we know he can be beaten. We've seen it already.
Well, what we'll do is we'll talk about the other stuff in this episode and then move on to 13 because we can go into anything we've not left out at the end to just talk about the season as a whole. So other stuff in this episode is, and this is another thing we really need to talk about, it's quite major, is Karen wants to write a paper about who Frank really was. She goes to the colonel guy, the name, so someone can...
Schoonover or something like that.
The Marine from the trial.
The guy from Shawshank Redemption. She goes and sees him.
And I knew from the moment that it actually showed who it was in the house. I knew that was him. I knew it was the blacksmith.
I didn't know the moment it showed him, right? But it became very clear very quickly, right? Before they started talking, and it was kind of like the feeling in my gut was, I hope this isn't what's happening, because this is
kind of feels out of nowhere.
But the problem is though, is that Frank's family being killed on that day at that carousel is supposed to be random, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be just a random act that happened because there happened to be this gang warfare going on while he was there with his family. And for it to turn out that the man behind all this warfare happens to be someone in his life from his past just feels so contrived and such...
I think the only reason they wanted to do it is to have him give up on his idealistic view of the military and kind of realize he needs to push back and reevaluate his situation.
He becomes not necessarily a soldier, but like just the force. Yeah,
I think that's the only thing they really want to do, and that's not wrong for setting him up for the future. But the execution was terrible.
I agree.
Yeah, it just didn't work at all.
It felt so just cheap and like immediately he's this evil mastermind who just gets that she's figured it out and pulls out a gun. And
nothing from her body language or words made it seem like
the only reason that he could think it was that she paused.
It's because he heard the music cue.
Yeah, that's what it was. And that's another.
It was all the
I really didn't like the music at that point. It was way too obvious, and they hit the cue way too late.
Yeah.
Like, it should have been Sinister earlier or later, one or the other. Where they came in was really just off
He
for
heard
me.
the music cue, and because he knows that she can hear the music cue, he knows, oh shit, she knows I better do something about this. That's basically what happened in that scene.
Yeah.
Having said all that about that part of the episode, I really liked him taking him out to the woodshed and just shooting him and then
Actually,
finding all the
yeah,
guns.
I did like that. I did like that when they go in the car, that tape's playing like it was in the previous episode, and that let Karen know that he was coming. Like, she's not alone. There's help. Although that does then beg the question: why does? Oh, actually, no, I know why Punisher knows is because he's seen that other guy who worked in the same squad.
Yeah.
The boat. Yeah, because I remember thinking immediately, how the fuck did he even know to go there? But that's why, because he recognised the other soldier. They
Yeah.
put two and two together.
Okay, just
So,
we'll
fair
see you
enough.
again, Frank, and then he looks over and he sees him.
Yeah.
And it looks like, why does that guy know my name? Oh, it's that dude.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They had
that
really blonde hair,
blacksmith.
too.
Yeah, that blacksmith reveal was absolutely.
It was a total cop out.
It was god awful. I really can't.
I'll be honest. At the end of the last episode, I thought it was going to say that Stick was the blacksmith because it ended on that shot of him
I had
sharpening
a
the sword.
feeling.
So did I
And
actually.
it
I
was
had a
like-
feeling. Yeah.
That sharpening the sword was like he's kind of being a blacksmith, like treating the weapons. I was like, is that where they're going with this?
I didn't even think that. It was just the way it cut to him after that whole
Yeah.
boat sequence, and I'm like, oh wait, he's been this presence that's been around, and it's like because it's going to have to be someone we know at this point.
Of course, it's too late in the season not to be.
Yeah, and I just
How do you
maybe it's
bankroll
him.
the chase and all that stuff? It could have fit.
I feel like
Yeah.
that would have been better. Like maybe would have been very different on what Stick's arc was, but I feel like it would have been more enjoyable.
I think it would have worked better because it still felt random for the death of his family because they weren't connected
Yeah.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stick would have been like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know who you are.
It doesn't work as well on Frank's side, but I think it works
Yeah,
better as
because
an
he
overall
can't,
side.
he can't really get closure because there's no way he's going to kill Stick.
Yeah.
Right.
But hey, so that's that. That's episode 12. Episode 13, the final, is called A Cold Day in Hell's Kitchen. And for as much as I really disliked episode 12, I did actually like the final for the most part.
Yeah.
I think the basic sort of like setup they had for this episode, where the hand kidnaps all of the people that Matt saved, takes them to a location, and he has to go there with Elektra to save them. That basic setup actually makes for a really entertaining sort of, standoff, Die Hard-esque, where, cops are all outside. It's a big siege situation. It made the action of the episode a lot of fun.
Also, we had to see Turk again. We had to.
Yeah.
I love Turk. He's so amazing. Like, you see him, and he's just trying to make $1, right?
Yeah.
And he does the only thing he knows how to do, but he gets his fucking hands beat in the trunk because Daredevil's there, and I love him so much.
Yeah. In fact, it's that scene where we see the old guy from episode 3 or 4, 3, and he gets shot in the head, and it's like, oh shit. That said, I do have to complain. What I didn't like about that whole scene is the woman from the hand who was like in charge and like threatening to shoot people. I thought she was really hammy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
she
like
was.
have we seen her before? She kind of felt like she just
think
came
so.
out of nowhere, and she's like, "Who is she? Like, what? Why?"
I thought she was related to Hans Gruber in some way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wait, was that like one of your cousins? So your
Huh?
uncle and is she ginger?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
she was like super redhead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we have Connor's uncle and his cousin.
Actually,
Not all
because of
gingers
her,
are related, you know.
because of her hair color, I thought that they were going like a Typhoid Mary route.
Oh,
Like,
I hadn't thought about
I
that.
could have seen that, but that was too much for this season. Way too late.
Yeah, but she wouldn't have been with the hand. She would have been with Fisk or someone else. Like,
Yeah.
So I have that complaint, but otherwise I like the whole setup of this. But I like Matt having to try and listen to everything to find
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
well, then we have that scene with Melvin Potter where they're getting fitted for an electro suit, and she shows up, and I was like, yeah, it's about to go down.
Yeah, he gets the suit, and then Matt gets his new Billy Club.
Oh, I love that.
That
thing
was so
much.
cool.
So cool.
It's so
well,
awesome.
This show needs to stop, like getting them the cool shit in the last episode because
My one complaint is that it wasn't in the lawyer cane. Like, it wasn't a convertible, like the blind cane, even.
Yeah,
It'd be so cool.
You mean like in the Daredevil movie?
I just think that would be such a good idea that you could have it on him at all times, so it wouldn't, like how it wouldn't feel weird.
yeah,
when
but does Melvin know he's
Yeah.
blind?
No,
Yeah,
he doesn't.
so
Good point.
So there you
Yeah,
go.
but I really like the scenes with Melvin. I like
So did
that
I.
scene too. It was when she's in there and she says something like, "Hey, where's mine?" She's like, "Oh, it was a prototype. I just made one." Like, just ignore her. That should made me laugh really hard.
Yeah.
I still got a suit out of it.
Yeah,
Her suit is fucking awesome too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She looked
The
really
design
cool.
of that, actually, the costume design and a lot of everything in the show, I think, actually
Yeah,
is really,
I really,
really good.
I like this the second suit. Like once he gets it from Melvin, I think
Yeah.
it's really fucking cool.
Do you know
Yeah.
what? I don't know if you're how much you agree with me, being like a big fan of the character in the comics, but I'm actually really glad they didn't give Elektra the bandana type thing.
God damn it, fuck you.
I get why you say that though. Like, what advantage would that have given her?
Yeah,
Like,
Actually, I would have really liked if it was like a ninja mask, like a hand ninja mask or something, and it was like red on top and black across the mouth.
But I get I
Like
can
that
see
could have
why
been a good homage to it.
That could have worked, but I thought a bandana itself would have been.
I was
yeah, but I like
I
the
would have
thing.
geeked out so fucking hard.
She just puts it up and that's it.
Yeah.
That was pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And then it's setting up and he just jumps in there. Like I got work to do. And he walks away from her.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I got to do this. I got to be the hero, and not to compare it to a Dark Knight movie again, but it was almost reminiscent of leave them. You don't owe these people anything. It wasn't the exact same because they had like an ultimate goal, but he's like, no, I'm going in there to save them.
It's similar to the boat situation in the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I agree with that. So, no, and there's some good fight scenes when they jump in, and then they have that really nice little sort of heart to heart before
Yeah,
they go in that
then
big
they start
last
trying to
fight.
cut that dude's leg off. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, just slicing
Yeah.
his leg off.
It was really starting to go through it as well. I was like, shit, how far are they going to go with this?
I
It was like with a Swiss Army knife too.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
the only one thinking, just cut the tracker thing.
Yeah, I
Surely
was
that's
thinking that
cuttable.
Yeah, but
I
they're
did think that.
They're ninjas, dude.
They don't care. Yeah.
It's ninja revenge.
It's funny though, 'cause see that heart to heart they have, and like before they go out for the big fight in the roof, and they're like saying, "Oh, I'll go with you. I'll go anywhere." I'm like, "Okay, right, she's dead."
So I knew. Yeah, that was the
I was
moment
like,
I knew.
She's a goner.
Well, we kind of knew that to begin with.
Well,
It depends on.
Yeah.
We didn't know how much they were going to follow the original comics, right? I know she does die in the comics, but it could have went multiple ways depending on how they wanted to do it.
I
Also,
think
that's
going
another
in,
good reason to have Bullseye in this season.
Yeah. I thought that was really weird.
Yeah.
The fact that he wasn't the one that killed her.
I
But
think
then,
that-
as soon as she-
That really does make me think that we won't see Bullseye.
but as soon as she died, I was like, I wonder what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But
No, exactly.
I just think it was going into the season. It was going to be her or Karen. One of them was going to die.
yeah, it just I don't know. It was kind of that thing where this feels so telegraphed because it's almost I don't want to compare it to Amazing Spider-Man 2 too much because that's a bit of an insult, but. It was in that movie where Peter says to Gwen, "Okay, I'll go to England with you because that's where you're going to go to school. I don't care. I can go anywhere." And it's like Peter can't leave. Spider-Man can't leave New York. That's bollocks.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's like we know he can't give this up, and that's just not going to happen.
He talks to her. He gives that little monologue earlier. I think it was to Frank about how New York is like you might go away from it. No, it
No,
was
that's to Fisk.
To Fisk, yeah.
Yeah, we
You
still
might go away from it, but you'll always come back. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like you're never gonna leave.
yeah.
And that's exactly what he does. That's exactly what's going to happen to him as well if he goes through it. And he doesn't even get the choice to try it because
Yeah.
Elektra beats the big one. But I do have obviously Foggy randomly shows up.
Yeah. Well, also,
Anyway.
why did Frank show up? What was his stake in this?
Well, yeah, I have kind of a problem with this as well because they show him gearing up, right? So he goes to like his place and he gets his spray paint out and he's like, all right, okay, he's getting the skull, he's getting his outfit in the last episode just like Daredevil in season 1 because we have to follow that pattern.
Yeah.
And he turns on the police scanner. Now I figure he hears it on the police scanner that this shit's going down,
Yeah.
and he shows up. That said, though, I do have a problem with him not having any stake in this whatsoever. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
That's why I think that if instead of him going after the colonel or whatever, he actually started like going after bad guys, just like random bad guys who did bad shit, it would feel a lot more.
I think
natural.
there's a couple of
Natural,
things. I think Mario said before he had to go after the colonel. It had to be connected to his family so he'd get closure. I feel like he doesn't need closure. I feel like the idea that he never gets closure and has to keep going to try and make himself feel better would have been cool. But then for this particular thing, it's like, yeah, it was a really great triumphant moment.
It's a cool moment, but at the same time, I feel like I never really got the idea that he
never really, yeah.
like
why?
him and Matt never got that close, like where he would go out of his way to shop.
Yeah.
You know, I never felt justified. It was like,
I feel maybe if that night we'd seen him going around killing others anyway, doing his own
Right.
thing, and then he gets to there and joins in that one. He's like, all right, well, I'm here now.
or even if they had like a stronger bond with Matt, where you got as soon as he heard it on the radio that Daredevil was involved, he would show up to help. Like, but we never got that sense either.
Yeah.
So it felt a bit forced. They forced, and that's the only time you see him in his skull suit. So it was like, well, they had to have this moment because it'd have been really weird if we didn't get that. But
It
Yeah,
was fucking badass.
and
does,
it looked
but-
great. It did look great.
it does. It kind of undermines the idea of how good that moment is by the fact that it just kind of feels cheap.
It does feel cheap. It's totally unjustifiable, and it's really weird.
I also thought it was weird. Like, I understand how Matt could be so angry at that particular moment, but like, Bullseye or Punisher shoots a ninja like right in front of him as he's walking past him, and he's kind of like, "Thanks."
And then he just pushes the other two to the side,
Yeah.
knowing Frank
Yeah.
will take him out.
Yeah, and I'm like, "What happened to your fucking philosophy?"
Yeah.
I could totally understand it if Elektra had died, just fucking send him over the edge, and he himself killed Nobu. I could totally see it, and that could have been a great arc over the next season of him dealing with actually going into the other side or something.
Yeah.
To be fair, maybe he
Yeah.
thinks he did. Because obviously at the end of this, it's Stick that finishes Nobu off. But
Right.
maybe Matt never knows that and he just thinks he ended up doing it.
Yeah.
Could be. I mean,
That would have the same effect as what you're saying.
yeah, but it's not. We don't know that for sure. And I think as an audience or as a viewer, it's not as effective.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's, I don't know. As much as I do like the final, there's a lot of, it leaves a lot of plot strands out, kind of. And obviously this makes sense for like season 3 coming in and continuing things, but everything leaves off in such a scattered manner. It feels really unsatisfying in terms of like, because we need to wait a year now at the very least,
At least, yeah.
possibly more. And you know, I would do it. It was cool that Carrie Ann Moss showed up as our character from Jessica Jones, and it makes sense that Foggy might go and work for, because it's a law firm in the same city.
Yeah.
Because I thought Jessica Jones, the reason why we might get a cameo from Matt or Foggy was because this is lawyers and, you know, they might intermingle at some point. But it
Right.
ended up being the opposite, and we got a cameo from her in this. And she's already confirmed for our Luke Cage.
Okay,
So
I didn't know that.
she's going to be popping around
Yeah.
as well.
makes sense.
So that's cool.
My biggest problem with this whole thing was how insulting it was to Karen. Like
Oh, that
this-
she didn't know.
Yeah, especially after this had. So he comes out and says to her that he's Daredevil, and she's like stunned and has no idea by the look of it.
But actually, yeah, well, to pause that there, to go back to an earlier scene in this episode, when Daredevil comes in.
That's where I was just leading with that. Yeah,
he
It's
comes
just-
in and he saves everyone, and he comes up and puts his hand on her face.
and then talks
Yeah.
in his normal voice.
Talks in his normal voice and says, you know, tells her to go. Are you okay?
It's like,
Go,
it's like
whatever.
really personal.
Yeah, and it's like she has no idea.
Yeah, I just don't buy it, and I feel it's insulting to her character when we've shown her digging in all this stuff and how smart and
Yeah.
resourceful she is, that she can be
They should
blinded
have just
by
said
this.
his name or something. It would have been fine.
Yeah, I mean it would have been very.
Yeah, if she just
Batman.
said like, Matt.
Even
then ran
even
off.
not that. Even if just at that final scene when he pulls out the cowl, right? Even if just then she looks kind of like I
like
knew.
she already knows.
Yeah, like if she gave that her reaction to that would have solved that. But it seems like, are you crazy?
Well, it's not even. That doesn't even bother me that much. What doesn't make sense is explaining all of it with that, like, because I feel like they're living the cliffhanger like that. Like this is supposed to fix things a bit. When you really need to explain why there was a random, really attractive chick sitting half dead on her bed and a really old dude that was being really sarcastic.
And it doesn't.
And then one of the things that I fucking lost my shit was when she storms out and then Stick says something like, "It was nice meeting you."
Yeah.
I fucking
I did
lost it.
I don't know the whole thing. It seems to use that moment to show that Matt's finally coming round to the idea that he doesn't want to lose these people in his life. That
Yeah.
maybe losing Elektra has made him realise, oh shit, I need to actually still be with these people. I need
Right.
that. I need those connections, and that's good. That's a good arc to have. But it feels like it's really shoved in at the end, and it's like, well, that's nice, but honestly, I care more about you patching up with Foggy than I do with Karen,
Yeah.
because I feel you two are closer first.
Yeah.
So that feels kind of shortchanged. So yeah, really frustrating. And then of course there's the final. What I feel it would be a post-credit sequence, except that they don't do that in Netflix because they do the whole shrinkage thing for the credits. So because they actually explained that's why they never did a post-credit sequence in the first season. It's because Netflix shrink the credits and then go to the next thing.
Yeah, well, that's why when they did that scene with Stick and whoever that person is, it wasn't after the credits.
Yeah,
it just went to black, and then the scene came up.
Because I feel like the last scene that this would have been effectively the post-credit scene, but it was they've dug up Elektra. The Hand have dug up Elektra, and they've put her in that stone coffin that we've seen a couple of times. And
I still don't know what all that blood was for.
No, it kind of felt like there was already something in there.
Well, it's clearly just a Lazarus pit thing, isn't it?
Yeah, which is something that's established in the book.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, when they were draining the blood, they felt like they already had the objective, like they already had her, like had something in there.
Yeah.
Do you know my problem with this? I don't have a problem with this being a thing, right? I feel like, okay, Elektra's going to come back at some point, because she's Elektra, right? I have a problem with them showing them doing it immediately after, in the same episode. Like, could we not have went a season?
It takes the weight away. It's one thing for us who are familiar with comics to know that this is happening, but for the general public, like who perhaps would have no idea, to cheapen it, like by literally like 10 minutes after she died, show, oh, all right, she's going to come back.
Hey, Mario, you know what would be cool? Is if she busts out of the thing, she's riding Shulao the dragon, and then Iron Fist comes up and punches it in the heart, and it becomes Iron Fist.
Aye, sure.
My mind then came to, she starts leading the Hand, somebody kills her again, and it's a scroll.
Oh, shit.
Boom, Secret Invasion.
Alright, I have no idea. Okay.
I've lost it, don't worry.
Yeah, there's a bit in the deep Marvel hole here, and it's hard to find my way out. Yeah, so I have a problem with them showing that immediately. And it's funny because you could probably compare all this Hand stuff to Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins and Batman, because it is a very similar thing. But I would also counter that with that's probably one of my least favourite Batman villains, and like, you know, I much prefer the insane criminals and the mobsters and the people who are real people first or whatever, you know. Even if they became monsters, even if it's something like Killer Croc or whatever, you know, they became monsters, sure, but you know, this whole ancient order of blah 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 has never been that interesting to me in
I
general.
think it's fucking awesome.
It's fucking cool.
And
it's definitely tits on toast.
No, I like it. I like those stories and those ideas, but I do think they should have waited with that moment and should have left it. And I feel like, again, for people who would have had no idea, the idea that she was dead and that was a permanent thing for a year would have been a good way to leave it.
So here's the problem. So you're obviously trying to cater to the people that know, but then they would have known already. Like anybody that knows about the comic books and what's going to happen, Elektra dies. There's the Hand. Obviously, she's going to be resurrected. Obviously, the Hand's going to want her to be leading it and come back. You know, you should have just said it was something else. Again, it would have been cool if you showed something with Iron Fist at the last scene, tying it together. Someone telling a young blonde kid or something about the Hand and telling him you're another one of these weapons.
Yeah,
something like it's fleshing out this idea that there's more of these weapons, and one of them's going to be Iron Fist.
I think it's frustrating. I didn't really like the Hand stuff. I didn't really like it when it was hinted at last season either, to be honest. But I really didn't like it this season. And honestly, like, I'm kind of pissed that this means there's going to be more Hand stuff, because I would really like them to just leave it behind.
See, I'm the opposite of that, where I didn't enjoy the Hand stuff, but not because I disliked them. I didn't like the way they were implemented in this season. But now they're firmly established, I hope that next time they can actually be really lean into it, make them a proper threat, and have them there as the focus of the entire season.
I think next season this is going to be a lot better. One, everybody's going to know who he is as far as his crew.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have the Kingpin going at him as Murdock. Elektra's going to show up because, I think it's similar with Lazarus Pit. When they get resurrected, by the hand, they don't come back the same.
Yeah, come back
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
She's gonna
Oh,
come
great.
back
Bloodlust.
corrupted.
Bloodlust.
Oh,
Fucking
fucking
bloodlust.
don't say that
Bloodlust. She's got a bloodlust.
Again, he's Red
Don't
Batman.
make me go
He's
and get the whiskey.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good.
he's not shit Batman. He's Red Batman.
I don't think
so
Pete
it's
got
fine.
So what did you say, Connor? Sorry.
I don't think you got that then when Alan said that.
Oh,
Are
I
you
get
okay?
it now. I get it
Yeah,
now.
there
Okay,
you
good. I thought you were just asking me if I was okay. Very good.
But yeah, that's probably where it's gonna go next season. Although I really don't understand where is this going. Like, I still don't understand how the Defenders are gonna tie into. How is Iron Fist gonna fit into this? How is
Yeah.
Luke Cage gonna fit into this? How is
They
Luke Cage
kinda
gonna fit
feel
into?
They feel pretty separate. I mean, I can see Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. I feel like where they connect.
Yeah, they
100%,
yeah, they go
100%.
together,
Yeah.
But
Well,
Daredevil
and then
feels separate.
Daredevil and Iron Fist, I think we're gonna go really good together too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
only problem is Danny Rand's best friend is Luke Cage. That's what I'm saying. How does that work?
Yeah. How do you bring those things together?
Well, you have Hogarth, who's the lawyer, Carrie Moss' character.
No, that's
Right.
true.
You know,
Man,
so
maybe that connects things.
So the link could be through Foggy and Matt then, in theory.
and then you also have what's her face,
Claire?
Claire.
yeah,
yeah.
Claire's jumping about, yeah, and she's apparently going to have her biggest role in Luke Cage so far.
Yeah, I hear that apparently there's rumors going
Yeah.
around that there have been bits of Iron Fist in there. That's why he's revealed the casting so early, because his shot scenes in there.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
would hope
Claire's
so,
Claire's
yeah.
supposed to be in the comics. She's an ex-girlfriend of Luke Cage.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
well, yeah, that might come up then. They might have a thing. Actually, another problem I had, and this is kind of the opposite of what I said about the final moment and how they showed it. But see, before we got to that, and they were sort of teasing this coffin and what the hand were doing, like a few episodes before that, I was actually kind of frustrated because I kind of felt like, right, we're 2/3 out of this season at the very least by this point. I feel like whatever this is mostly set up for next year.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of frustrated me because I kind of felt like, come on, like, give me a complete... And I think that's my problem with this season overall, is that it feels like there's less of a complete story than there was last season.
I feel like it'd be okay once you've got seasons 3 and maybe 4 and you binge it all back to back as one complete thing.
Yeah,
But as a season on its own, it's definitely a lot weaker in that sense.
yeah. Like I say, for me, episodes 3 and 4 rose above what season 1 did.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think after that, it never reached those heights again. And for me, overall, it is a weaker season.
Yeah, I feel like I've shot on it quite a lot lately because we've been in the second half, but I did still enjoy it as a whole.
Yeah, no, I did. Even when I wasn't liking a lot of the elements in the second half, whenever it went back to Frank or it went to the Kingpin stuff, you know, I was liking a lot of that stuff.
There
But,
was enough in every episode that kept you going and enjoying it.
but the stuff I didn't like was the hand and stick, and I didn't like Matt shutting himself off from everyone. It felt, and it separated everything out.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't enjoy. Other people with their thoughts of the season overall. Now that we've done the spoilers and you can reference stuff.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Anytime Elektra was in the scene, I fucking loved it. I loved the chemistry they had between the two of them. I loved the relationship they had. I loved the way they interacted. I love the way that it could almost feel like it's a perfect fit. It's like this shoe that just fits so perfectly, like a glove. Like, even though he was against being cool with her, and he was really defensive, it just immediately slipped into that old relationship because it just worked so well. That's really, I think that's the highlight for me for the season. As much as I like Frank, I think he seems like he has depth, but it's actually kind of shallow because it has a lot here, but then there's nothing after that. And he's
only about that one thing.
Yeah, and he's kind of isolated too because he only talks to Karen as a human being, and that's it. And those interactions are great. And he has an interaction with Matt early on, with Daredevil early on, but then after that, he doesn't really talk to Daredevil again.
Yeah.
So he's very isolated by himself too. So I didn't like him as much, but since a lot of the second half was most focused on the hand and ninja stuff, Elektra was really great in all those scenes.
See, the thing is, I agree with everything you said about Elektra with their chemistry, their relationship.
Yeah, I
it was
agree with the
great
chemistry.
to watch,
Yeah,
and it was
that
that
good.
stuff was fantastic. It was what they were doing that wasn't as interesting.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't. I mean, there were ninjas and they were flipping around and shooting ninja stars and dodging things, and
See, to me though, that's exactly
like-
kinda,
It's not enough for
That's
me.
a
Like,
similar-
that's really cool, but it
that's
has to be.
that's a similar shallow thing to when you complain people who like Arrow and stuff when they like the references. To me, you saying, "Oh, there was ninjas and it was cool." To me, that's just the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
About
No, I mean,
something
Ninjas
that-
but
are cool. Arrow's
I like-
not. That's how it boils down. So deal with it.
you know what I mean, though, Mario. You see what I'm saying when I say that.
Yeah.
It's like
No, because it's like Arrows because it's done really shitty.
no, but it's.
No,
I
no,
think
I'm talking about the show as a whole. I'm talking about the specific complaint you have where people like things in that show because it references stuff. You're just simplifying it down to these things saying, "Oh, there was ninjas and stuff, so it was cool."
I think you like it because it replicates what you read on a comic, but it doesn't actually tell a better story, which is our problem. Where
Well, I think
this
the other
stuff
thing
could be
too is
good, but it's not
We
used.
fill in a lot of the blanks that you guys are missing. Like
But
to
you
me,
got-
it's like I forget that you guys don't know. Like I'm like, oh yeah, the chase in the hand, and
But that's
remember
the
that
thing,
one
like,
issue with
but
this.
that's
Falcon
a
and-
problem,
shouldn't
though. That's
be
a valid
problem,
flaw.
Yeah.
I know, but you see what I'm saying. Like I think it's what happens with Alan and I. Like I just immediately go like, oh yeah, I'm on board. I already know the story. I'm down. Let's see what happens. Because I just fill in the blanks with everything that I've read
And I
already,
think
and I know.
the thing is that's just not an excuse. Like it's great if you know that, but you shouldn't have to at any point.
The simple
Yeah.
truth is you're also in the minority with that. Like out of all the people watching this show,
Yeah, definitely.
you know how many people, what percentage of people watching this are familiar enough with all this stuff that they know this already?
Should be all of them. I'm just saying. No, I get where Mario's coming from as like somebody who's super in depth and knows a lot about the source material and everything. I get where he's coming from, but I do agree that even though I like a lot of that stuff, I like the hand and I like the chase and I like all that stuff. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just it's poorly executed, and that really is the bottom line. So I mean, I wish it was done better. I wish it would have been more cohesive. I wish there would have been more connective tissue between the Punisher and the Hand to make it one full story as opposed to two that they just tried to shove together.
This is interesting
But-
because it kind of feels like you feel the same way how when like Batman '89 was back out and then like people loved it because it was as close to Batman as they'd been, and it was like they're like take what you can get, but even if it's not perfect, it kind of feels like a similar thing here with you guys where it's not perfect, it's not executed well, but this is much better than anything we've ever gotten before.
Sort of. I think
I
that,
can just remember there was a time when they had to say that about the movie because that was the only
Fair
thing that.
Yeah,
I sort of, but I do feel like the relationship between Elektra and the way Elektra's portrayed, the way Daredevil's portrayed, the way that stuff is portrayed is completely spot on, and it is perfect. And that's why I like it so
agree.
much.
Yeah,
And that's
You know,
why
that's-
that's why it earns so much for me to like it. Because it's not just like, oh, this is good because it's the best we have. No, this is perfect.
no,
like you don't
that,
need to,
that stuff is, and it's good, but it's the way the plot as a whole with the Hand is implemented into the story, which is where it falls short. Where you're happy just to see it on screen that they're doing this, and it's like this is cool. There's ninjas that they've got in, and they've got these, and they can reduce
Right.
their heartbeat and
those,
stuff.
those
Yeah.
elements are correct. It's just the way that they're connected to other elements in the story.
It's
That
almost
is
like-
not correct.
This isn't referring to Alan, obviously. This is specifically a Mario thing, but it's almost like the opposite to Guardians of the Galaxy for him, where for us, we don't know how accurate it is to the comics, but it's relentlessly entertaining and everything works as a movie. Whereas Mario doesn't like it that much because he feels, oh, it's not this and it's not that. Whereas this is kind of the opposite thing, where it's hitting the things from the comics, so he's quite happy, but for us, it's just not working as a story
Yeah.
on the screen.
Mm.
And Alan's this weird thing in the middle where he likes both.
I'm a complex individual. I'm sorry.
You're just you're easy to
strange
please.
creature.
Maybe you like to like things, so you find the good.
no. you clearly haven't listened to CVI.
Okay, it's a lie. All right, fine.
I'm a complicated man.
No, he just
understands
really
me.
likes ninja things and Elektra.
That is true.
That's
He-
just
and
true.
there's just like 18,000 katanas in there. They're just like giving them out.
God
for
damn it,
free.
Mario! This is going to go live all over the internet.
Yeah, the
And
police of South Carolina might want
No,
to
I mean,
investigate your house.
No, in the show, there's like 18,000 katanas in the show. They're just like giving them out for free to the
Exactly.
ninjas, and that immediately is getting points. Elektra being
Alan
so
rates
great
it up like
points.
4 points just because there's a katana. Oh, there's another one. Like each
Wait,
one you
wait!
see
That
is, like,
one's got
0.2.
poison on it.
I love it.
That's like 5
Fucking
points.
love it.
See, for me, I just see so many like ninjas, and as a point where I'm like, this is just kind of ridiculous how many there is now. You know, Like,
See, that doesn't bother me. I
No.
just wish they. I
If-
think
if
the
they had
ninjas
opened
can
up
be
that-
good.
If they had opened up that giant stone coffin and a samurai stepped out, that would have been it for me. I just had a fucking heart attack and
No,
died.
no. If it was, it would have been like the steel serpent,
Yeah,
something like that. Just
but
fucking.
with the katana, it'd have been great.
No, he doesn't. No, the steel serpent doesn't need a weapon. His hands are the weapon.
What if
Steel.
it was just a living katana?
do you know? I feel like
Wait. Did he got bitten by a radioactive katana?
Does he have like mini katanas for arms?
He's got the proportional strength of a katana.
It's basically just Shredder from the Ninja Turtles movie
He
recently.
just makes him. That's his body. It's not armor. Anyway,
I feel like
it's good times.
I feel like I want to ask a question here, right? For everyone to answer. I want people to rank the Netflix seasons now. We have 3. We have the Daredevil season 1, Daredevil season 2, and Jessica Jones season 1.
Here's the question: based on what we think is better, or what we personally like, because they're
I'm gonna
two
give you
very
both.
questions.
Yeah, do both maybe.
Do both if you want. I mean, for me, it's the same. So, I'm good.
It's because Peter is a villain. He's a super villain, as we've already illustrated.
If you feel that they're different enough that you want to say both, then you can say both. But Connor,
Yes.
number 1.
Okay,
Guys,
first I want to say the first two, the quality is very similar in terms of how I think they are. There's just a personal preference of taste for one of them. So number 1 is actually Jessica Jones. Number 2 is Daredevil season 1, and then this is last.
Right.
Yeah, but I feel like that's another situation. Yeah, situation because I think you admit that season 1 of Daredevil is technically better.
I think they're very close. I'm not sure which is better, honestly. I'm honestly not sure because I think both have problems, but they're both a similar amount of problems for me. So it kind of just weighs about the same, and then it just depends to taste which one I actually picked. I prefer there at the very end.
Right. I'll go next. I'm going to leave the 2 Marvel guys to go last because I think those will be the most interesting and perhaps controversial. For me, number 1 is Daredevil season 1. Then Jessica Jones season 1. And then Daredevil season 2. It's actually kind of worrying that they're gradually getting worse. Hopefully that they buck that trend soon. And it's actually a real shame for me because honestly, episodes 3 and 4, I was thinking when I finished 4, man, if the rest of this keeps this up, this will be head and shoulders above season 1.
I remember reading your comment,
Yeah.
and I was excited. And then I got to like 3 and 4. I was like, this is fucking amazing. By that point, you were on about like 9.
Yeah.
And you'd commented saying some real concerns here. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, it really did not hold that standard for me at all. And some of that's taste, some of that's genuine problems, but you know, it went down for me. Mario.
Season 2 of Daredevil at 1. Season 1 Daredevil at 2. At number 5 is Jessica Jones. Season 1.
The one number 3 is the
technically-
teaser for Luke Cage.
Oh yeah. On a technical level,
Danny Rand.
Daredevil season 1 is would be on the top, and then I'd still put Daredevil season 2 at 2. Now I'd still put Jessica Jones at the end. I really didn't like Jessica Jones that much.
Well, at least these long reviews are getting interesting. We're not all just agreeing with each other.
Yeah.
They're exciting. Alan.
So mine's a combination of Peter's and Mario's.
Right.
Objectively, I would say that I'm more on the side of Peter with Daredevil season 1 at the top, then Jessica Jones, then this season of Daredevil.
Oh, okay.
Whereas subjectively, I'm with Mario, and I would say Daredevil season 2, Daredevil season 1, then Jessica Jones. Not necessarily number 5.
I feel like Alan's having his cake and eating it too.
You're goddamn right. I never understood that expression. If you have cake, why not eat it?
I don't get it either. Alan.
It's a
I
very
agree.
good
I actually
point.
completely agree that saying is stupid. But
What? What?
People
I'm
say you
too.
can't have your cake and eat it too. That's a fucking stupid
how
ass
does
expression.
how does that expression not make sense? It makes perfect sense.
Because why would you buy
If
a
you
cake
have
and
your
not eat
cake,
it?
why would you not eat it?
yeah.
No, I know, but it's a consumable. You can't have it after you eat it. You can only consume it once. You can't keep having it and not consume it.
That's
You can
not
only
it.
do one or the other.
But have
all-
and then
That's a
eat.
linguistic thing. That's stupid.
Yeah,
That's-
no,
Have and then eat implies have is owning and then eat is consuming.
No, but the concern is about the ownership part. You can't keep owning it and having it in your possession, and if you use it, because it's a consumable. That's what you're really learning. You can't do both. You can only do one. You can either keep having it, or you can eat it and then not have it anymore. I don't understand. That's what?
See, I hate that you're making sense right now because it makes me just want to punch you in the
Kind
face.
of is. Like, I'm almost getting what you're saying, but
Wait, what do you mean? Kind of is this
No,
like saying I don't
well,
understand
I don't-
air?
He is right, I just never
I don't
considered it
own
that
any
way.
of the seasons of Daredevil or Jessica Jones, so this is not about ownership. This is about me watching or consuming the fucking thing.
Yeah, to me, what you're saying when you say have your cake and eat it too, you're saying you have your cake because you've got your cake, you've went and got it, you've got it, and then you're going
Not
to
a
eat
literal
it too.
comparison. It's just saying in the situation where you have a consumable that can only be used once, like a match, and you can't own the match and light it, because once you light it, that match is unusable. You stop being a match. Now it's just a used up piece of paper.
Right, but this is a reconsumable thing.
Now you literally, if if you're not talking about just saying that in a situation where it is something you can consume more than once, you just can't have both situations. You can't get both outcomes.
See, I'd never considered that way, and I understand that now because I took it from more of a literal linguistic point of view of
Yeah,
how.
I feel like anyone who
own
says it
versus
now
consume.
thinks about it the way we think about it, where that's the way it sounds.
I never even realized that this was an issue. Like
I think people just we accept it as a saying because it's a cultural like
this might be
slang.
an
but we don't.
obscenium situation again, where it's just to me is like that's not weird, and everybody else made fun of it. And then I was like, well, that's the real term.
Well, it's cake, and I'm going to eat the fucking cake. That's what it boils down to.
But anyway, moving on.
Anyway, Daredevil.
Daredevil Season 2, we have come to an end to this epic review. I'm not sure exactly how long it's been, because we had to take a break in the middle, but it's been at least 2 hours. Lately a bit more than that. So, with that said, thank you very much for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, let us know in the comments what you thought of the season. Do you agree with some of us, all of us, none of us? Let us know what were your favourite moments, biggest problems, so on. You can of course email us, mailfuzz@gmail.com, tweet at us at mailed_fuzz to let us know there. You can find all of us individually on the Twitters and stuff. Connor, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @ConnorRyan94, and then if you want to find video games content here on Marfuzz, you can go to the Marfuzz Video Games channel or just search 1080-bit and you'll find that podcast there.
Cool. Alan, where can people find you?
You can find me right there.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
At Alan Malden on Twitter.
Cool. Mario, where can people find you?
Find me on the Twitters at JohnnyBlaze321. Find me hating on Castle, hoping that ends finally, and hoping that the rest of the cast gets to be free.
One person in particular is of your interest.
I doubt you can even name another cast member.
You probably can't. I can't.
No, neither.
But anyway, so Castle, stop watching it. Just stop watching it. Don't watch it.
You can find me on Twitter and other social media places at Wibble89. You can also find me on our weekly TV reviews. Here, obviously, we're on Almost Cancelled just now, but if this is your first time ever watching or listening to us, we do review shows every week. We do all the superhero ones for the most part. All your DC ones on CW and that sort of stuff. But more importantly to your interest, if you like Marvel, we do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews every single week it's on. That goes up about just over a day after it airs every week. We do a review of the newest Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Same 4 people. So if that's of your interest, do check that out. And of course we do movie stuff as well on the Male Fuzz Movies channel, horror movies and all that jazz. So check out that if you want to. If you want to help us out, give us a like, a subscribe, a share, 5-star review on iTunes, whatever it is, wherever you're experiencing this. It would help us out a lot. We binged Daredevil in fairly record time to do this. So give us some love. Just a little bit. And with that said, thank you very much for listening. We will see you for the next Binge Watch special on September 30th. Well, it'll be 31st when we do the special. That's Luke Cage in September. Hopefully we don't fight as much on that one. We're out.